The great dragons beat their massive wings one final time before touching down upon the uneven metal ground. The creatures settled, the riders wasting no time in swinging their legs over their bodies and leaping to the floor. Boots struck the surface with a synchronized thud. Within moments, the group stood ready, weapons already drawn as the interior gleamed in the strange violet light. Jaida and Tuni landed side by side. Nearby, Voyd's hand wrapped around the handle of his axe. He turned and scratched the side of Tater Tot, the great beast lowering its massive head to receive affection. Good boy, good boy. The assembled group split according to their predetermined plan. Voyd found himself standing alongside Jaida, Core, Sky, Sika, Cogson, Tuni, and Brumble. The others remained clustered together, their faces set with determination as they prepared for what lay ahead. Core approached Atlas, gently pressing Joby into the other warrior's capable hands.
Keep her safe,
Core said, entrusting his most precious thing to his friend. Core's free hand then reached behind his back, retrieving the worn bag of matter sprites.
But, Papa, I want to fight,
Joby protested, her young face twisted with frustration and the burning desire to prove herself worthy. Core ignored the pleas, instead emptying the entire contents of the bag into his palm, the tiny luminous stars swirling in a chaotic cluster.
I know,
Core replied, his tone soft and resolute.
But you'll be safer in a larger group. One day when you're older, you can be by our side.
He tossed the empty bag aside and ruffled Joby's head with affection.
For now, keep Gloppy close.
The little Sparket nodded, though her eyes still burned with fire as she clutched the creature to her chest. Core turned towards everyone assembled in the group, lifting his voice so all could hear.
Here! Everyone, take one!
Began giving the matter sprites out, pressing one in each waiting hand.
Just in case,
he added grimly, knowing the full weight of the dangers that awaited them in the depths of the reformatter. When he reached Jaida, Core paused, pulling out a distinctly purple sprite that seemed to shimmer with cosmic energy.
This is a cosmic sprite,
he said, pressing it into her palm.
I believe this can give you a well-needed boost for when we face Matira.
Jaida nodded, tucking the sprite away carefully. Thanks, she said simply, her gratitude evident in her eyes. For a moment, the group simply stood in silence, absorbing their surroundings. The water-damaged metal of the ancient structure rose around them, twisted and corroded by time. Brumble was the first to break the silence. I'm still sensing the Wardens are patrolling this place like guard dogs, he said, summoning his weapon with a wordless command. We must be vigilant. Matira will guard Jay with her life if she's this determined. His words hung heavy in the air. Across from him, Winona drew her sword. Through the visor of her helmet, her eyes swept across the crew. You guys ready? She asked. Pearl stepped forward, her whip coiling at her side like a waiting serpent. Jet suddenly illuminated his mechanical form, lighting up as he extended both hands towards the group.
I've pinpointed the best routes we can take,
he announced, rolling forwards, positioning himself beside Winona and Voyd.
Sending data to your armors.
Voyd deployed his helmet, the metal sealing around his face as he studied the incoming data. We go right, you go left, Voyd declared, his voice echoing slightly in the room. He turned to address both groups, his axe blade already catching the light. Once Jay is retrieved and Matira is, hopefully subdued, we'll meet back here and fly out of this place. He whistled sharply, drawing the attention of the dragons who had begun to settle into resting positions. Terratot, you and your new friends guard this area until we return. The great beast rumbled, lowering its massive head in promise. Voyd looked at each face around him, his friends and family he had fought beside and trusted with his life. Everyone, please be careful. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of all he had left unsaid. The fears for their safety, the hope that they would all survive this ordeal. They nodded in return. Lunging forwards, Jamie hugged Voyd, then kissed his metal-covered forehead, looking into his eyes behind the visor. Be safe, love, she asked, to which Voyd nodded. Of course, Mom. Then without further delay, the two groups split, Voyd's party moving to a large door on the right, while the others disappeared into the darkness on the left. Heavy doors groaned as they sealed shut behind them, leaving the dragons alone to guard the space.
Hang on, Jay. We're coming.
Jaida gasped breathlessly as they began to make their way up a winding stairwell that spiraled upwards into the darkness. Her voice cracked with desperation, the words torn from her throat as she willed her legs to move faster.
Please be okay. Please be okay.
She pleaded with tears now streaming down her face.
He's still alive. He has to be,
Voyd said, his voice steady despite the turmoil brewing in his chest. They all continued their sprint, their unified footfalls creating a rhythmic thunder that reverberated through the entire reformatter.
This shouldn't have happened. If I had known this is what she would have done,
Core began, his voice heavy with guilt and self-anger.
This isn't your fault, Core. We couldn't have known this is what she would have done.
Sika cut him off firmly, her voice cutting through the air like her scythe. She assured him with absolute certainty, her eyes never leaving the path ahead as they sprinted on.
None of us could have predicted this,
she added.
Yeah, she is supposed to be our protector, and if she goes and pulls the most gut-wrenching thing I've ever seen.
Sky bustled with a grunt, her voice dripping with disbelief as they made it into another hall, shocked to see no wardens blocking their path.
Yeah, after all the stories I've heard, this was the last thing I expected from her. I can't believe this is happening,
Tunia replied, his voice a mixture of anger and disbelief. As he ran, his expression grew increasingly troubled. Clarkson only stared, blurring over Sika's shoulder. His eyes burned with a cold fury that had been building ever since everything that had transpired.
Lady Matira has been shattered over and over again. It was only a matter of time before she truly crumbled,
Brumble said, gazing ahead into the darkness.
But as we've discussed, she is only hurting. There's a chance to save her. If not, then Jay is the sole priority.
Brumble said honestly, making Voyd and Jaida look behind themselves with gratitude.
We're glad to have you here, Brumble. You've been such a help through all of this,
Voyd said, with genuine warmth to his tone. Brumble nodded.
Happy to be here. Happy to think more for myself. Whether we live or die, my duties now stand with you, Sparkborn of Hope.
Brumble said, making Voyd smile despite the situation. Sky then scoffed, sound sharp in the tense silence that had fallen over the group.
I still can't believe that,
she said, shaking her head.
My little brother is a Sparkborn.
She cackled out with glee.
Man, imagine how Mom and Dad would have reacted,
she asked, making Voyd and Core chuckle despite everything.
Yeah,
Voyd said, looking down momentarily as the memories of his parents flickered through his mind. The laugh died in his throat as quickly as it had come, replaced by a heavy weight of reality.
I hope I'm strong enough for this.
She got the better of me instantly, Voyd replied, prompting Jaida to speak with fierce determination.
Voyd, we're gonna stop her. No matter what, we're going to stop her,
she said, looking at him with stern eyes that burned with maternal fury and unwavering resolve.
Remember the saying, we do this together, as a team,
she declared, making Voyd shake his head.
No,
he said it plainly, before looking back ahead into the darkness of the corridor.
We do this as a family.
Everyone nodded to those words, a silent agreement passing between them all. They began to near a large mechanical red door at the end of the hall, its size equivalent to the one before the garden. Without wasting a second, Voyd raised his foot back. Without the need of spark essence, he kicked the door down by his sheer strength alone. The reinforced metal gave way with a thunderous crash, the door blowing off its hinges and going flying into the room beyond. Before them was the bridge, standing in all of its technological and nature-mixed glory. Purple surges of energies mingled with golden rays of light, creating a visual symphony of power that would have been beautiful if not for the circumstances. Above in the extraction core was Jay, enveloped in this bright glow, his small form floating peacefully, asleep. His chest rose and fell with gentle rhythmic breaths, peacefully slumbering, unaware of the danger that threatened to consume him. And there, standing before it with her back turned to them, was Matira. She stood motionless, a statue of determination and sorrow, waiting for the confrontation she knew was coming. The group all rushed inside, standing side by side in a unified front. Voyd raised his axe, the weapon catching the light in a menacing gleam. Jaida summoned her hammer, the weapon materializing in her hands with a flash of cosmic energy. Sky summoned her chain Nova blades, the weapons uncoiling like serpents ready to strike. Rumble raised his massive weapon and shield, the sheer size of them blocking the light behind him. Sika raided her scythe, the curved blade humming with deadly potential. Tooney surged with energy, the power causing him to levitate off the ground, his body floating several inches above the floor. And Core raised his shotgun, the weapon aimed with deadly precision. Cogson only stared, glaring at Matira from over Sika's shoulder. His eyes never left her form, watching for any sign of movement. Immediately, Jaida called out Jay's name, her voice tearing through the air with desperate urgency. She went in for the attack, her hammer raised high and ready to swing with all her might. But Voyd quickly extended a hand out and blocked her from doing so. She glared at him, anger flashing in her eyes at being stopped. But Voyd's eyes said everything his voice wouldn't. The message was clear. Not yet. Then, they looked back to Matira, awaiting her response, wondering if she would be the first to strike. As the moment stretched into an eternity, Matira began to speak, her voice carrying through the chamber with an otherworldly quality that seemed to resonate through the very walls themselves.
Curious, she said. Seraphim, he gave you his soul.
Matira hung her head low, the words seeming to cost her greatly to speak.
He did quite like you, for that short time you knew each other.
Matira said, refusing to look at them. Voice trailed off, shattered beyond repair.
Have you come to kill me?
She asked, as they slowly began moving forwards, their weapons still raised and ready.
Have you come to seek retribution for clipping your wings? For doing this to your son?
Matira asked on. This prompted Voyd to speak, his voice carrying across the bridge with the weight of a father's love.
Please, just let him go,
he asked, his voice cracking slightly despite his best efforts to maintain composure.
We awoke you to help save us, not divide us,
Voyd pleaded as Matira slightly turned her head to face him, though still not fully turning to meet his gaze.
My lady, I understand that he holds the power to save us. I understand the easy solution for you. But Jay is my son. You didn't make him. He's not your tool.
Voyd went on, speaking from the soul. His words poured out, driven by the desperate love of a parent facing the unthinkable.
He's the culmination of me and Jaida's bond. He's ours. You may be our goddess, but you don't get to choose our fates like this,
Voyd explained, making Matira turn more so to face him.
Jay is the key to save us, that I believe. But this is not the way. He came into this world for a reason. He deserves to live,
Voyd boasted, his voice rising with conviction and fury. The words seemed to strike Matira, prompting her to fully turn with a scowl that twisted her features into something barely recognizable.
And then what? He breeds and procreates, making hybrid spark children with beings that could weaken our purity?
Matira cried out with anger, her voice reverberating through the chamber with tremendous force.
Through Jay, we can create a more powerful race of sparks, beings on par with the Beyonders themselves, true warriors, a new age far more grand than what was before. It would be...
Before she could continue, Jaida spoke up, cutting through Matira's reasoning.
Oh my god, shut up!
She cried, making Matira halt mid-sentence.
You keep trying to justify my son's life as a way to bring upon a new age. But since when did you ever care about the old age?
She boasted, her words dripping with raw maternal fury.
What?
Matira asked. Jaida's hair began to burn and fume with fury. You left the Sparks because what? You were sad? You weren't there when me and Voyd had to clean up the mess you could have prevented. You have no right to use our baby, my baby, to fix a problem that you could have easily prevented if you weren't such a lousy goddess who is in truth deeply flawed and mentally unstable. She cried, making Voyd's eyes and the others widen in shock. Jaida, he said, his voice a mixture of warning before she rolled on him. Zip it! She cried, her eyes blazing with fury before she looked back to Matira. You're insane if you think you're gonna kill my son for something that might not even work. She went off, her hair fuming with fury, literally smoking from the intensity. Matira's eye twitched at Jaida's words, when Core suddenly spoke up, his voice heavy with exhaustion and frustration. We worked our asses off just trying to reach you. I spent years and years just running on the hope that you could fix this, he said, shaking his head. And the best you can do is resort to sacrificing a member of my family, a baby I never imagined I had the privilege of holding. Think about what you're doing. You're Matira. You're our protector. He went on, his voice rising with each word until it reached a near shout. Matira began to slowly hyperventilate, her breathing becoming ragged and uneven. Sika stepped forward, gripping her scythe with renewed determination. You killed your son! You tore Voyd's wings away! You shattered my grandfather's legs! And you think we'll just accept this? Sika asked, her voice sharp and cold. I thought better of you, Matira. I truly did. But perhaps you're more like your husband than you wish to believe. Sika said, making Matira summon her spear and slam it on the ground with a thunderous crash. I am not my husband! She cried, as the Reformattor's eyes slowly turned to look upon the scene, sensing the conflict that was unfolding. Then don't kill him, my lady! Cogson cried, locking eyes with Matira as their gazes met across the chamber. Please. I know you're struggling, but this is a desperate move. Voyd's right. This is our future. Jay is our future. It'll be different, but we can still live on, even if it isn't to such heights as it used to be. Cogson explained, as Matira began to shake, her body trembling with the effort of holding back the flood of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. This act will tarnish your image forever, even more so compared to what you've done today. Please, don't let this desperation and grief consume you. Cogson pleaded, his voice soft yet carrying the weight of genuine concern. Brumble spoke up, his massive form shifting into a ready combat stance, his weapons raised, but his voice carrying nothing but compassion. We can rebuild. Something that will be smaller, yes, but it can be the start to something new, something all of us can enjoy. Please, we need each other more than ever. Lay down your spear, Brumble added, his voice extended a hand. Please, we're begging you. Come to your senses. You don't want to do this. We see the conflict all over your face. I feel it within you. Voyd pleaded with a nervous look, his voice cracking with the intensity of his emotions. From one spark born to another, I ask you to let go of my son. For the sake of our people, lay down your blade. We love you. This isn't who you are. Matira hung her head, gripping her spear. Her whole body shook as tears spilled from her eyes. She looked up, shaking her head. She then spoke, her voice raspy. I pity Jay. I do. Believe me, I do. She said as her body began to glow. A soft luminescence of gold began to flow over her body, casting shifting patterns on the floor. The glow deepened, humming with a vibration that began to echo. Matira's breath came in shallow, trembling sighs, and the spear in her hand trembled with the same tremor that racked her frame. This is a hard role to play, but he is just one life in the service of many, Matira said, as she began to levitate. As she did, 4 wardens emerged from the shadows, readying swords and axes. His energy,
His soul power will save our species in an easier, more powerful way. Even so, Jay is part human. What he will leave in life will be less spark and more of something else. Hybrids, monstrosities. The sparks, as we know, will be tarnished forever. Batira's voice rose, raw and desperate, reverberating off the ceiling. The group shifted uneasily, staring her down. From her back burst her pair of magnificent wings, the turbines around them spinning with a low, rhythmic whine. The light they emitted was blinding. I cannot allow that to happen. This is the only way to truly succeed. This is what you wanted, is it not? She roared, as light and dark matter swirled around her. He may be your child, but he is still of my blood, my command. It is not for you to deny us our golden chance at prosperity. Batira stated, as the purple energy bloomed brighter, all while Jay remained asleep. The purple aura intensified, bathing the chamber into a deep, royal hue that seemed to seep into the very metal. Batira's eyes were fierce and unyielding. They burned into the group, daring them to challenge her words. Stand down. That is an order. Batira growled, her voice sounding more sinister, slithery. Those words, however, had an opposite effect. They prompted Jaida to cry out. Shut up! Jaida screamed, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. In an instant, she dissolved her hammer and blasted forward, her body propelling herself with cosmic energy. She drew an arm back and delivered a devastating punch square into the side of Batira's face, a cosmic-induced strike of unimaginable power. An eruption of pure energy burst forth from the point of impact, the shockwave illuminating the space even brighter. The force was overwhelming. Batira was sent sprawling backwards, her massive wings failing to catch her as she crashed through several trees, splintering them in the rubble. Jaida hovered in the air, her feet never touching the ground as cosmic energy cradled her form. Around her, the others readied themselves for what was to come, weapons raised. Slowly, Batira pulled herself from the wreckage. She spread her magnificent wings, rising back into the air. Her face was half burned from Jaida's attack, the skin blackened and smoldering, but her visible eye remained fierce and unyielding. She glared at Jaida with pure hatred, burning in her gaze. Jaida stared back, cracking her knuckles one by one, the sound echoing across the floor matter. She didn't bother summoning another weapon. She didn't need one. I knew you reeked of that wretched snake! Batira growled, her voice dripping with venom. With a thunderous burst of energy, Batira blasted forward, her wings propelling her at breakneck speed. She reared her arm back, preparing to strike Jaida down with her spear. Moving faster than he ever had before, Voyd sprinted ahead, his legs pumping with desperate speed. With a mighty leap, he launched himself into the air, swinging his axe in a devastating arc. The axe connected with Batira, sending her crashing to the ground before she could strike Jaida. Batira whirled around, her wings creating a gust of wind as she recovered. Voyd and Jaida landed side by side as they faced their enemy together. The Wardens readied their weapons, but before they could strike, Core, Sika, Cogson, Toonie, Sky, and Brumble engaged them, intercepting the stone beings and leaving Voyd and Jaida to face Batira head-on. Jay will bring forth a new age. Stand down before I really hurt you! Batira cried, her spear pointed menacingly at the duo, the weapon hummed with divine power. You'd have to kill us in order to take Jay from this world, Voyd declared, his voice firm and unwavering. He and Jaida readied themselves for the fight of their lives. He leaves here alive! Jaida growled, cosmic energy crackling around her form as she charged forward, all while the reformator stared down at them from above, observing the clash of the gods. So be it, false gods! Batira cried, her voice echoing across the bridge. The battle intensified immediately. Batira moved with deadly grace, her sharp twirls and powerful clashes utilizing both her wings and spear to their fullest advantage. She was a whirlwind of destruction, moving quickly and striking with precision as she clashed with Voyd and Jaida, who dodged and evaded her devastating attacks. With a sharp, vicious swipe, Batira knocked Jaida aside, sending her sprawling into a tree. The goddess turned, putting all of her focus on Voyd. With a graceful flip,
She whirled herself around, using a jagged spike from her wing to snare Voyd in the shoulder. The spike pierced deep, drawing blood. Rolling around with terrifying strength, she threw him into the side of another massive tree, causing him to stumble and cry out in pain. Before she could strike the killing blow, he spun to recover, quickly swinging his axe in an upward slash. The blade clashed with Matera's spear, spark essence against spark essence. They swung at each other, trading blow after blow. Matera used both her wings and spear to deflect Voyd's attacks, her movements fluid. He jumped, defying gravity and spinning like a tornado, the momentum clashing Matera backwards. Before she could ever recover, he rolled sharply, creating an energy slash to knock her back even further. "Please! I don't want to do this!" Voyd cried, his voice desperate. "Neither do I!" Matera roared, her voice cracking with emotion. Suddenly, she advanced on Voyd with terrifying speed. She flipped over him, using her legs to snare him by the neck and hurl him into the ground, sending him sprawling across the growing battlefield. "Don't make me kill you too!" she cried, her voice echoing with both rage and sorrow. Voyd groaned as he got back to his feet. His strength had not wavered. As he rose, Jaida walked back into the fight. She snagged Matera in a chokehold, her arms wrapping around the goddess's throat. Jaida screamed, summoning a blade of pure cosmic energy and stabbing it into Matera's collarbone. Matera screamed in agony, but Jaida didn't stop there. She warped them, slamming Matera into one wall before warping again and slamming her into another. The impacts were devastating, creating dents and cracks in the metal. "I'll rip you apart!" Jaida huffed, summoning another blade and ramming it into the side of Matera. Golden blood sprayed from the wound. "Piece by piece!" Jaida roared. With a whirl, she threw Matera aside with an acrobatic spin and surge of cosmic fury. Matera sprawled on the ground once more, her wings crumpling beneath her. But Voyd advanced, throwing his axe with deadly precision. The blade slashed across the side of her waist, tearing her left cloak flap completely off. Golden blood sprayed forth like a fountain. But Voyd pushed the advantage. He leapt forward, a surge of blue spark essence enveloping his body. He delivered a mighty uppercut, the force making Matera scream in pain. She quickly whirled, swinging her hair forward and knocking them back with a wave of dark matter force. "You little!" she cried before lunging again. She stabbed her spear into the ground, forcing Voyd and Jaida to evade the deadly weapon. Voyd called his axe back to his hand and deflected, clashing with Matera's spear once more. Jaida provided support, leaping back upon her with fierce blows of cosmic constructs. Amid the chaos, Core and the other sparks made quick work of the Wardens. With a battle cry, Core swung his arm and stabbed the spear into the underside of the stone being's helmet. With quick work, he raised a shotgun and blew the being's head clean off. Beside him, Sika slashed the legs off another knight. As it fell, Clarkson summoned his axe and slashed its head in half. The stone body crumbled to dust. Brumble, with his powerful agility, slashed another warrior in half, the stone body splitting nearly perfectly down the middle. Sky and Tooney shattered the last one with a unified clash to his chest, the force reducing it to rubble. Once dealt with, they turned, seeing Matera blow Voyd and Jaida back with a pulse of divine energy. They quickly rejoined them, standing by their side as Matera levitated into the air, her wings spread wide like a dark angel. "Do you seek death?" she cried with a snarl, her divine power radiating outwards. "If it means saving the life of our little Jay, then so be it," Sky growled, her voice low and dangerous. They prepared to fight the goddess. "You can still stop this. Please," Voyd begged, his voice breaking with desperation. He didn't want this fight to continue. He didn't want anyone else to die. But there was only Matera, crying in rage, her sorrow melting in the fury. And then, she continued the attack. The rest of the group sprinted through the vast corridors, their footsteps echoing against the cold metal walls as they raced to keep pace with Jet, who rolled ahead.
"It's right up here!"
Jet's voice cracked through the tension, ringing with desperate determination. As they ascended the final steps, they emerged into a vast chamber that opened up before them like the belly of some ancient beast. The room was colossal, its ceiling disappearing into the darkness above. Scattered throughout were strange artifacts, statues of the Sparkborns, frozen in eternal glory. Past these lay the main room they had been searching for, its massive metallic door looming before them at the other side of the large space.
"There!"
Jet shouted, pointing towards the imposing entrance. Everyone began to move, their boots thundering against the floor as they surged forward. But trouble arrived without warning. Suddenly, the wardens came in. They burst through opening doors and dropped from above, infiltrating the room from every conceivable angle. The group found themselves surrounded on all sides, the cold blue visors of their enemies glinting with malicious intent. The knights began their chant, their voices harmonizing that familiar guttural war cry that vibrated through the chamber.
Oh, whoa!
Alice cried out, deploying his double-sided Nova Blade with a flick of his wrist. The weapons materialized in his hand, humming with dangerous green energy.
Looks like you've been waiting, huh, boys?
He added, lighting a cigarette to his mouth. Jed, is it all of them? Booster asked, his voice wavering slightly as he surveyed the area.
Just means more fun for us,
Ellie replied, readying her shotgun with a grim smile. The weapon gleamed in her grip. Maple cackled from within the hover carriage, the vehicle whirring to life as weapons activated.
Let's show them what we're made of!
Joey cried, holding Gluppy close.
The control room is dead ahead,
Andy cried out, her voice cutting through the chaos.
I might be able to figure out the controls, kind of like I did back at the factory,
they said.
Now let's not waste time,
Winona shouted, pulling a duplication sprite from her belt. She crushed it in her palm, and the room filled with light. Suddenly, there were 5 Winonas standing in the room, all brandishing swords, their identical faces and their helmets set with fierce determination. Everyone gasped, their eyes widening at the impossible sight. Oh my god, Francine breathed, her voice barely audible over the growing battle cries from the wardens. The Winonas looked to each other, acknowledging their shared purpose. Then, moving as one, they charged towards the nearest warden. The others followed suit, pulling out their own sprites. CZ activated a fire sprite, watching in awe as the mist that constantly surrounded her head transformed into dancing green flames. Coco crushed an ice sprite, the frost erupting from her hands. Ellie crushed an electricity sprite, and immediately bolts of energy began blasting from her shotgun, arcing towards the wardens with devastating precision. Francine crushed a negative sprite, and the space around her seemed to warp, pulling at the wardens with invisible hands. Meowcree grew, stretching and expanding until he reached the size of another warden, his eyes glowing with feral intensity. He roared, launching himself at the enemy. The others followed suit, all enhancing themselves with whatever powers their sprites could provide. The chamber filled with light and sound as each member of the large group transformed. Annie looked down to their own sprite, a power sprite. They crushed it in their hands, feeling strength surge through their veins like liquid lightning. Then, with everyone battling the wardens, Andy made a mad dash for the door. Rockets and bullets erupted from Maple's carriage, streaking across the room in trails of fire. Stone and spark essence went everywhere, the wardens' forms crackling with energy as they fought. As Andy moved and evaded through the battle, and ducking under swinging weapons, Cece and Francine stayed close, guarding their friend through the chaos. Behind them, Joby ran with Gluppy, panting as she did so. You sure you know what you're gonna do? Francine asked, her voice strained as she punched a warden's leg out, the limb turning negative and crumbling to ash. Andy nodded, her breath ragged.
I hope so,
Andy cried as Pearl was close by, having activated a plant sprite. She slashed her Nova Whip, throwing out thorns from it with every strike. A warden ran towards them, directly in the path of Andy. With a cry mixed with fear and bravery, Andy lunged forwards, throwing a fist into the warden's chest. The knight shattered in a single punch, its fragments dissolving into nothing. Andy landed and rolled back to their feet, then made their way to the door. As they did, the real Winona rejoined the crew, while her duplicates went berserk on a smaller warden, their swords flashing in deadly synchronization.
Go! We'll hold them off!
Meowcree cried, as he and the rest engaged the stone army. The A&N crew nodded. Using their power, Andy pried the metal door open, allowing them to run inside as the battle raged on. The chamber beyond was bathed in flashing lights, casting long shadows across the control panels, the same place where Sabrath controlled the extraction core.
Come on, hurry!
Joey boasted. They didn't waste time. The group ran toward the large control system. As they did, their powers began to wear off. They gazed at the large control systems, trying to catch their breaths. It was designed in the same aesthetic as the rest of the view formatter, its panels covered in switches, levers, and screens that displayed scrolling data none of them fully understood. The hum of machinery filled the air, punctuated by the distant sound of battle. As they gazed at the controls, their attention was suddenly drawn to a bright purple energy outside the viewing window, a sickly glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. Jay was still in the extraction core, suspended in the center of the terrible light. A hologram flickered off to the side, displaying information that made their blood run cold. Extraction, 90% complete.
So this thing's draining Jay's life force?
Andy asked, their voice barely above a whisper. Winona and Francie nodded, their faces grim. There were other flashes happening below. Flashes of blues, oranges, yellows, reds, and greens. The colors painted the walls in a chaotic pattern, illuminating the devastation unfolding outside. Seeing this, Cece approached an exit door and stepped out onto the platform to overlook what was happening. Down below, she saw Matira battling Voyd, Jaida, and the rest, the sight making her stomach drop. The fight was brutal, each combatant trading blows that shook the very foundations of the structure. She then looked back to Jay and the machine, and cursed under her breath.
Oh, great googly moogly,
she said before turning around.
Andy, you gotta hurry! This is looking bad!
Andy caught their breath and looked at the controls. They cursed, wiping sweat from their face.
Oh, shit, okay. I got this. I can do this. Just cover me.
Andy asked, the voice shaking slightly as they looked at the controls.
Come on, tech guy,
they said to themselves, gripping the edge of the console.
You want to escape from your boring life? Well, here you go. Take the damn risk and lock in!
They took a deep breath, steadying their nerves. Then they began fiddling with the controls, their fingers moving across the panels with desperate precision. Screens flickered, alarms blared, and somewhere beyond the walls, the battle raged on, their only hope now resting on Andy's trembling hands. The air crackled with raging energy as Matira surged forward, her blade flashing in rapid succession against Voyd's defenses. She struck with deadly precision, first low, then high, then sweeping towards his soul chamber, attempting to put him to sleep as well. Voyd twisted and blocked, but Matira's assault was relentless. Beside him, Core and Sky moved in perfect sync, their movements mirroring their brothers as they worked together to throw Matira off balance. Their combined efforts created a dazzling display of synchronized combat, each sibling covering the other's weak points. Toonie hovered behind Matira, the celestial energy pulsed with blinding light before he released it. Blasts of pure green radiance streaked towards Matira's back. She rolled at the last moment, sensing the attack, and hurled a Nova Rune towards him. Rumble reacted instantly. His blade sank through the air, intercepting the Nova Rune with a powerful swing. The two forces collided, exploding in a burst of raw power that sent shockwaves rippling across the battlefield. Rumble landed hard, his feet digging into the ground as he braced against the impact. He then duplicated himself, adding more hands into the battle. Matira flew sideways, barely dodging the attacks. She spun, taking out the clones easily. She landed gracefully, her chest heaving with exhausted breaths. Around her, her opponents gathered their own breath, their eyes locking on her.
Stop this at once!
Matira's voice cracked with energy, raw and desperate.
In any minute, our race will be saved. Jay's death won't be for nothing. I will build shrines to him. I will create murals for him. Why can't you understand that I love him as much as you?
The energy sphere surrounding Jay pulsed brighter, the rings moving at a violent speed, its power growing with each passing moment. Inside, Jay's form began to weaken.
If you love him, then let him go!
Voyd cried, his voice breaking as he leapt into the air. Jaida was close behind, her face set with determination. They clashed against Matira in midair, creating a chaotic air fight that sent energy flying in all directions. Toonie and Bumble joined them, adding their fury into the fray. Below, the rest of the group prepared for battle, positioning themselves strategically. Cece remained watchful from above, her eyes wide with horror as she witnessed the carnage unfold. Sky snarled, her wheels activating with a mechanical whir. She blasted forward, skating up the walls in circular motions, moving so fast she became a peppermint green blur. Her Nova blade glinted in her hand as she wound around and around, gaining momentum. She threw the blade with deadly accuracy. It struck Matira in the leg, piercing through her metallic skin. Before Matira could react, Sky yanked hard on the blade's chain, dragging the goddess toward her. Matira screamed in rage as she was slammed to the wall, as Sky dragged her along the surface with terrifying speed. Pieces of Matira's metal skin chipped away, her golden plates scraping against the metal. The velocity was immense. She might as well have been dragged by a race car along asphalt. With a powerful kickoff, Sky leapt off the wall, hurling Matira through the air like a ragdoll. Core saw his opportunity. He leapt skywards, his massive fists raised high. Spark essence gathered around his knuckles, crackling with raw power. He punched downwards with all of his might, connecting directly with Matira's chest. The force of the blow shuddered the entire room. The machine's eyes winced as the impact resonated through everything. Matira screamed, a haunting cry as she unleashed a surge of dark matter. The black energy erupted from her body, sending Core flying backwards. He crashed through one of the massive trees, splinters exploding in all directions. He landed hard into the corner of the room, grunting in agony. "I command you to stop!" Matira roared, her voice echoing with authority. Sika suddenly engaged, her weapon flashing. Cogson added his help, swinging his axe with deadly precision. They worked in unison, their attacks coordinated. Rumble and the others re-engaged, surrounding Matira from all sides. "Not until you do that yourself!" Voyd cried, his axe slashing through the air. The battle raged on, each side fighting with desperate fury. Slowly, Core pulled himself from the wreckage. He reached to his side and pulled out the dark matter sprite. With a grunt, he crushed it in his hand, its essence entering his body. "Andy, hurry!" Cece cried from the balcony, her voice trembling with fear. Andy struggled with the controls, their fingers flying over the various buttons and levers. Come on, Andy," they muttered frantically. The others and Joby watched, seeing Andy struggle with the controls. "Oh, no, some of these controls are jammed. I don't have access," Andy cried, frustration evident in their voice as they tried to open a few hatches. 95%, Andy! Francine shouted with worry, her voice rising. The extraction core glowed brighter and brighter, its power reaching critical levels. "I'm trying!" Andy replied, throwing their hat aside to wipe the sweat from their matted hair. Joby suddenly leapt onto the controls, holding Guppy out. "Move out of the way, green guy! My dog can solve this!" she said, to Andy's confusion. Then came a puking sound. Gross and unexpected, Guppy spat out acidic vomit. The acid substance melting the hatches away to reveal more of the controls. Andy's eyes widened in disbelief before they looked back to Joby. "Do you care about my dog now?" she asked. Andy nodded. "Yes, thank you," they said before getting back to work. Pulling more switches, they caused the floor to open around the battle. Emerging back out into the heat of the fight was the Reformattor's crystal heart, shining with blinding energy. "Hell, wrong switch!" Andy stuttered nervously as they got back to figuring everything out. Back below, Matira continued to clash with the others. She knocked them back with a powerful horn pulse, a wave of dark matter that sent them sprawling, before advancing on Sika. With a violent swing, she slashed her spear downwards, shattering Sika's right horn entirely. Sika screamed in agony as red spark essence erupted from the wound. She fell to her side, writhing in pain. Cogson cursed under his breath. "Matira, no! Spark, damn it!" he cried as Sika weakly grabbed the broken stump of her horn. With rage fueling her movements, Matira approached, ready to strike Sika down in a blind rage. But before she could deliver the killing blow, she heard a roar that shook the entire chamber. Turning around, Matira was met with the brutal fist of Core's dark matter form. He transformed, his body now composed entirely of goopy darkness and orange spikes, his mouth eye glowing with malice. He sent the goddess flying backwards with a single punch. Matira landed hard, the impact cratering the floor. She looked up, shock and disgust filling her features as Core stood before Sika, roaring with rage. "About time," Voyd grunted approvingly as he and the others recovered from their injuries. "What in the Maker's name?" Matira asked, her voice trembling. Core charged her, his dark matter form writhing with destructive energy. With a pounce, he pinned her to the ground, punching her face in with sharp, powerful clashes. Matira fought back, pushing herself up and commencing a violent roll with Core. They punched and thrashed, screaming and fighting with violent surges of energy. Jaida summoned her bow, her fingers pulling back the string. She fired shots into Matira's back, the arrows piercing through the armored skin. Tuni joined her, blasting celestial beams down upon the goddess. More of Matira's parts broke off, her wings chipped away, all as she kept screaming in agony. Brumble quickly went to seek his aid, helping her to safety. Everyone else began the assault, tag teaming back and forth. Voyd slashed his axe, the blade connecting with Matira's side. Jaida punched with pure maternal fury, each blow fueled by her love for her son. Sky slashed with her Nova blades, while Tooney struck with powerful forces from above. As Matira lost the upper hand, Andy moved in the control room, clicking a few more switches. The machine hummed ominously. "Andy!" Cece screamed, her voice rising with a pitch of desperation. The extraction was at 99%. With a panic cry, Andy pulled one last lever in desperation. From it, to everyone's shock, an audible shutdown sound echoed through the chamber. The extraction core suddenly sputtered with light. The rings around it slowed to a halt, and all the essence that was being taken began to revert back into Jay in an instant.
Extraction cancelled.
An AI voice exclaimed, causing every head to turn and look up. The sphere quit burning, its glow fading. Jay was more visible than ever, floating in the center of a now dimming device. "Andy! Andy, oh my god! You did it!" Cece cried, tears streaming down her face. Or rather, up her face.
I did it?
Andy asked with a shaken breath, disbelief evident in their voice. Both Winona and Francine shook them, slapping their hat back on their head. "You did it! My god, you did it!" Winona cried, her voice breaking with emotion. Francine breathed with a sigh of relief. Andy stuttered, overwhelmed. Joby suddenly nuzzled into them. "You saved him!" she cried, struggling to believe what had just happened. "Jay!" Jaida suddenly cried, her eyes softening as she saw her baby safe. "They did it!" Voyd cried, hope flooding his voice. Matira's visible pupil shrank to a pinprick, a tiny dot of rage and disbelief. With a blast of energy, Jaida soared up towards the sphere. She reached in and took Jay out of the extraction core safely. She hovered in the air, holding him close, gently crying as the reformatter watched. Jay's eyes fluttered open. He looked up at Jaida with curiosity. She looked back and smiled, the rage fleeing her soul like it had never been there to begin with.
Mama,
Jay said, reaching up for her.
Yeah, that's right. It's Mama.
She said, her voice trembling with overwhelming emotion. Matira, however, was the exact opposite. She stared at the reunion with a shattered stare. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. No! No! Matira's voice split the air, a scream of pure defiance that echoed off the reformatter's walls. Suddenly, she unleashed a surge of dark matter and light matter, the two opposing forces twisting together in a deadly combination, a mix of energy that lanced outwards in every direction. The blast struck like a physical blow. Everyone upon her was thrown back, sent sprawling across the bridge. The remaining trees were torn from the floor, their roots ripping free with groans of protest. Core, Sky, Tooney, Brumble, and Voyd were all sent in different directions, each one tumbling, rolling, slamming into walls and debris. Core hit the wall so hard, his ability disengaged. He hit the ground with a heavy thump, the impact driving the air from his lungs. He lay there, stunned, as Sky and the rest similarly crashed down around him, being unable to pick themselves up. Sika too was knocked back down, shouting in agony. Jaida looked down from her position, her heart hammering as she saw Matira instantly come for her and Jay with a furious flap of her wings. The goddess descended like a hawk, spotting prey, her eye burning with the intent to kill. Jaida looked towards Cece, her expression desperate. "Cece, take him!" The words tore from her throat, raw of fear and urgency. Before Cece could even respond, Jaida acted. She projectile warped Jay into Cece's arms, burst with energy that sent her son sailing through the air towards safety. But the moment she released him, Jaida was suddenly tackled and slammed to the ceiling, the impact cracking and denting the metal above. Jay instantly began to cry from the sudden surge of power that had transported them, his small body racked with sobs. The transition had been terrifying for the child, making Cece gasp and stumble back. Young Flipside clutched the crying baby close to her chest. "Jaida!" she cried out, her voice breaking. "You got him!" Winona shouted from behind, relief evident in her tone. Then all fell silent, their attention captured by the sight of Matira and Jaida fighting midair, locked in their deadly dance. All the while, the eyes of the reformator silently watched. "Get him out of here!" Jaida cried, her voice strained as she struggled against Matira's iron grip. But before she could finish, Matira suddenly snagged her by the ponytail and rolled her down, sending her crashing into a massive generator along the floor. The machine exploded on contact, showering sparks and shrapnel in every direction. Jaida disappeared behind the wreckage. "Run!" Francine shouted as they made their way for a nearby door. Cece held the crying Jay close, his small fingers clutching as he reached for his mom and dad below. His sobs racked his tiny body, his confusion and fear evident in every tear. With a raise in her hands, Matira forced dark matter to rise and block the exits. The ANN crew was stranded on the balcony with nowhere to go. "Give him to me!" Matira roared, soaring right after them. Her wings beat the air with tremendous force, propelling her forwards at terrifying speed. But before she could make contact, Voyd leapt up with a surge of energy. He raised his axe, channeling every ounce of his remaining strength, and slashed it through Matira's right wing. The blade bit deep, shattering the delicate design into a shattered state. The goddess screamed, a sound of pure anger, as she crashed to the ground, her shattered wing falling to pieces behind her as she did so. Voyd locked eyes with Jay for a second, a silent message passing between them. An "it will be okay" kind of look. Before he and Matira fell back to the ground below. The rope landed hard on the large crystal heart that pulsed at the center of the chamber. The rope landed with heavy thuds, sprawling across the floor in pain. Both of their weapons faded, the axe dissolving in the particles of light, Matira's spear evaporating in the wisps of gold. Both stood, staring at each other with pain in their hearts. Voyd scowled, his lip curling in dismay, as Matira scowled back, all while the ANN crew watched from above, their faces pale with fear and exhaustion. "Stop! It's over!" Voyd grunted. He retracted his mask and spat out blood, the blue fluid splattering against the floor. "You've lost!" He cried out, his voice hoarse but defiant. Matira shook off her other wing, its parts falling to the floor like shed feathers. "I've already lost enough! I will not lose this chance! Let me make this right!" Matira cried, stomping forwards with anger. The ground shook with each step. Those round Voyd struggled to get back up, their injuries slowing them. "You can make this right by stopping this!" Voyd groaned, his voice rising, prompting Matira to freak out again and attack. They both charged one another with fists alone. No weapons, no magic, just violence. Voyd leapt and swung, his fists connecting with nothing but air as Matira dodged with a graceful roll. He quickly rolled back around and jumped up, bringing his fist down to strike Matira. The goddess swiftly sidestepped, and Voyd punched a hole into the ground. Metal exploded inwards, all the while, the reformator watched them, its heart pulsing powerfully, casting a brilliant light upon them. The ancient machine seemed to judge them, as its eyes tracked every movement. "I'm giving you one last chance, Voyd," Matira said, swinging her dark matter hair into a tendril that lashed out like a whip. Voyd evaded with a flip, his body moving on instinct. "Don't make me bury two Sparkborns on this day!" she cried, her voice crackling with emotion. As the two threw punch after punch, the battle intensified, their fists connected with grunts and gasps, the sound of synthetic flesh meeting synthetic flesh echoing through the chamber. "Please," Voyd pleaded, his voice breaking. He was tired, exhausted, and control of the battle was evident in his movements. As he spoke, Matira suddenly struck him across the face with a backhanded slap, making him stumble. She took her chance, delivering punch after punch, sending Voyd to the ground, each blow connected with sickening thuds. He redeployed his mask. "Don't you understand how much I've lost? How much I regret?" Matira asked as she instantly shattered Voyd's helmet again, beating his face in over and over, all while Jay screamed for his father, a sound of pure terror that cut through the noise of battle. All the ANN crew could do was watch with horror, their faces paled, their hands clenched. "My whole godhood has been mistake after mistake. Jay's death shall be among them." she cried, continuing the punch, her fists flying faster now.
But this final mistake will lead to a better tomorrow. One where I can restart, make amends for all the past errors I've made.
She went on, her words tumbling out in a frantic scream, as Voyd did his best to defend himself. His arms came up, trying to block the rain of blows. They were too weak, too slow.
Without proper sparks, without proper beings of matter, the universe will face threats alone. It will wither and die, and I will be a goddess without purpose. I cannot allow you to stop this.
Matira cried as she raised her fist back, ready to deliver a killing blow. Her eyes blazed with madness and desperation.
Forgive me, Novason. I promise you shan't be forgotten,
she muttered, with tears streaming down her face. But before she could strike, a sound erupted from the broken generator, a flash of purple light that illuminated the entire chamber for a short moment. The sound of a matter sprite being crushed rang out across the reformatter. All three heads snapped up to the sound, their attention captured by the sudden eruption. A sudden golden light began to emanate from behind Voyd and Matira, and they all turned. The heat suddenly turned up, the room growing dangerously hot. The temperature rose in seconds, sweat beading on every brow. The air itself seemed to vibrate with power. And then, from out of the generator, walked Jaida. In her clenched fists was the shattered wisps of the cosmic matter sprite Core had given her. It surged into her body, igniting a form that no one had seen since the fight with Warnog. The sprite ignited the power she couldn't unleash on her own, a power dormant within her, waiting to be awakened. Stepping into the chamber was Jaida's supercharged form. Her entire body glowed with a yellow gold, her hair burning a sapphire blue, her eyes blue as well. Matira fully turned with a look of shock passing her features. She summoned her spear again, the weapon materializing in her hand, but Jaida merely walked towards her with a look of hate.
This universe doesn't need proper sparks,
she said, her voice carrying across the chamber like thunder. She radiated power like a sun, her form terrifyingly beautiful.
All it needs are those who are willing to fight for what's right. Me and my family among them,
she growled, leaving a burn trail behind her.
Look at yourself. You've become the very monster you created the sparks to fight against. Isn't that what they were made for? Stopping threats like you?
She added, making Matira hyperventilate.
Stand down, or you're really not gonna like what happens next.
Jaida continued, as the two circled one another, their movements slow and deliberate.
I'm giving you your one and only chance, sweetheart. Stop this now, yield your spear, and leave my family alone,
she said, closing her eyes.
You dare defy me, Wraith?
Matira asked, her voice shaking with rage and panic. Jaida's eyes snapped open to her words, her pupils shrunk into pinpricks at the name. The room fell silent, and she stared with a blank expression upon Matira.
Yeah, I do.
Before Matira could respond, Jaida warped forwards, and with the speed of a comet, punched her into the ground. The impact shook the entire chamber, metal cracking under the force. Everyone watched with stunned eyes to Jaida's speed, Voyd especially as he rapidly healed and pulled himself from the floor. But Jaida was only getting started. As Matira gasped to try and stand, Jaida suddenly snagged her by the shoulders, the touch burning her skin and making her scream. The contact seared Matira's flesh, smoke rising from the points of impact. With an angered grunt, Jaida headbutted Matira back down, causing her left horn to crack. The sound was like thunder, echoing through the chamber. Before she could fully fall, Jaida snagged Matira by the throat and punched her so hard, both cosmic energy and spark essence exploded from the impacts. One hit after another came, sending Matira onto the ground again, each blow driving her deeper into the metal. With a sharp kick, Jaida slammed a cosmic foot in the Matira's jaw, sending her crashing back. Everyone could only stare at the brutality Jaida was giving. It was unlike anything she had ever shown before. Not swift with Warnog, not powerful against Lotus. Just pure rage. Pure maternal rage. She then grabbed Matira again, and threw her sideways into one of the broken trees. The wood splintered on impact, shards flying in every direction. Before Matira could even react, Jaida warped forwards and snagged her by the leg. With an angered shout, she threw her at the heart in the center of the room. Upon impact, her upper left horn broke off, causing her to scream and slide to the floor on her hands and knees. Jaida slowly approached her, heavy footfalls echoing as she summoned a cosmic blade to her hand. The weapon materialized in her grip, its edge glowing with deadly light. No words were needed. Everyone knew what she was about to do. Matira stared back with a broken body and a pleading face, tears streaming down her divine features. Jaida said nothing, only gazing with hate as she gripped the blade with both hands. Matira's visible eye widened, watching as Jaida raised it above her head, ready to deliver the killing blow. Yet as she swung down, Voyd suddenly slid in front of her, summoned his axe, and deflected the blow. The two weapons connected, causing a blast of orange and blue to rupture forth, an explosion of light and energy that lit up the entire chamber. Gas filled the chamber as Voyd and Jaida locked heated eyes. Their gazes burned with conflict. The moment hung suspended in time, the universe itself seeming to hold its breath. "Why?" Jaida asked, her voice trembling with shaken breath. Her shoulders rose and fell with each labored inhalation, her chest heaving from the battle that had brought them to this moment. Before her, Voyd matched her breathing, similarly spent. He just gazed at her with his big, blue eyes and a pleading look.
After everything she's done, you still wish to keep her alive?
Jaida asked, her words laced with a mixture of exhaustion and bitter disbelief. Her fingers were slick with fatigue. They loosened their grip on her weapon, and she watched as the luminous blade began to dissolve in the particles of fading light. Voyd followed her lead. His grip slackened on the axe that had become an extension of his will, and he too let the weapon fade from existence. They were both battered, tired, but Voyd stared at her with those eyes she loved so much, those eyes that told her everything she needed to know. Matira wasn't dying. The realization settled in the Jaida's gut like a stone. "Jaida, you're better than this," Voyd said softly, his voice carrying both tenderness and warning. He watched as Jaida's reawakened powers faded entirely, leaving her standing, her heightened strength stripped away to reveal the exhausted woman beneath. Tears began their slow descent down her cheeks, tracing clean lines through the grime and blood that colored her face. "Killing her would make you no better than her killing Jay. Matira is still a spark, like me, and like him," he said, his voice steadier now, more certain. "I won't allow any more of my kind to die, no matter what." Jaida sniffled, the sound wet and broken. She looked away, unable to meet his gaze, unable to confront the truth that he had spoke. But Voyd, patient and understanding, gently cupped her cheeks in his palms, guiding her attention back to him. "Matira will answer for her crimes today," Voyd continued, his thumbs brushing away the tears that continued to fall. "What's important now is that Jay is safe. It's over." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We won, Jaida. We won." The two touched foreheads, sharing a moment of exhausted peace, a brief respite from the chaos that had consumed their lives. Jaida nodded, drawing in a deep, steadying breath. She collected herself, pulling herself together. But before another word could be shared, Matira suddenly stood and extended her hands forward. She then fired. The blast came without warning. Twin streams of energy. One stream blazed with pure blinding light matter, the other dark matter. Together, the beams struck Voyd and Jaida squarely in their chests. The force of the impact knocked them both off their feet, sending them crashing to the floor with brutal power. The impact knocked the wind from their lungs, leaving them gasping on the cold metallic surface. Voyd and Jaida suddenly screamed in agony, their voices raw and piercing. The power took hold of them immediately, tendrils of energy stabbing into their bodies, wrapping around their very essences. They writhed on the floor, their muscles seizing, their nerves lit with impossible pain. The material rose, broken, battered, but defiant.
I won't stop until...
She grunted, each word an effort. Her chest heaved with strain.
I fix this!
She roared the words, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. Below, Core and the others tried to move, to intervene to help, but they were still healing. They could only watch in helpless horror as the two suffered.
If it means killing you both, fine! No parents to get in my way. No more roadblocks.
Matira cried, her voice escalating into a shriek of desperate madness. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the golden blood that dripped from her chin. But she did not stop, could not stop. The flow of the energy continued to pour from her hands. All while the ANN crew above could only watch, unsure of what to do. Their faces were filled with shock, their bodies frozen in place. They witnessed the horror unfolding below them. No one moved. No one knew what to do. Little Jay stared with petrified eyes. The infant watched as his parents writhed in agony on the floor, his tiny hands clenching in the fist, his breath caught in his throat. He reached toward them from Cece's arms, reaching, grasping, desperate to bridge the distance between them.
Mama, Dada.
Jay cried out, his voice high and trembling with sorrow. The words broke from his lips, piercing the cacophony of screams and energy blasts. That sorrow swiftly transformed into something else. His face turned. The innocent confusion gave way to a little scowl, an expression of fury no infant should possess. His eyes narrowed, his tiny brow furrowed, and something shifted within him, a change that went beyond mere emotion. He began to slap Cece's arms, tiny hands pounding against the grip that held him. Let go, his body seemed to say, though no words emerged. He was done being held, done being kept safe while his parents suffered. Then he focused. A bright light began to emanate from a small form, a purple glow that intensified with each passing moment. His little horns, the barely visible nubs, began to hum with energy. The air around him shimmered. And then, he warped. He disappeared in a purple flash from Cece's arms. The sudden absence left Cece clutching at empty air, her arms still positioned as if she was still holding Jay. The shock of it froze her in place. Jay reappeared upon the rail to the balcony. The entire crew looked upon him and cried out in shock.
What the heck?
Andy shouted, their voice cracking with disbelief. Their eyes were wide, jaw hanging slack.
Did he just warp?
Jaida cried out, her voice joining the chorus of astonished exclamations. But Jay didn't stop there. He warped again. This time, he materialized on top of one of the slowly spinning rings of the extraction core. He dangled for a second, kicking his little legs as he clung with his arms, while Voyd and Jaida continued to scream below. The sound of their agony reached him. It filled his mind, his very being, their cries fueling something within the infant, something primal, something protective, something that transcended his age. Jay warped again, this time emerging directly from the air and bouncing off Core's head with a soft thump. Core's eyes widened along with everyone else's, watching as the little spark began to rapidly crawl towards the scene of violence.
Jay!
Core cried, but the baby was on a mission. His small limbs propelled him forwards with surprising speed, crawling over the debris-strewn floor towards his parents. Matira, with all her hate, continued to strike down Voyd and Jaida. Her twin beams lashed at them without mercy, the combined force of light and dark matter grinding away at their bodies. Their movements grew weaker by the second, their screams growing hoarse. Tears rolled down Matira's face, tears of frustration, of desperation, of a grief that had festered into something monstrous. But she was too far into it now. She couldn't stop. That was until 4 bright purple beams suddenly fired from out of nowhere. The beams struck Matira hard. 4 simultaneous blasts of concentrated energy that slammed into her chest with the force of a freight train. The impact drove her backwards, her feet scraping against the floor as she was pushed towards the reformattor's heart. Her beam ceased. The sudden absence of pain left Voyd and Jaida groaning on the floor. They coughed and wheezed, their bodies trembling as the energy withdrew from their forms. The immediate threat had ended, but the damage had been done. They lay crumpled on the ground, but they were alive. Matira slowly looked up, and what she saw made her go still. There, at the end of the room, with his little horns humming with energy, his tiny body radiating that purple light, was Jay. The infant crawled forwards, his small form trembling with the effort of holding himself upright. Tears streamed down his cheeks, his mouth open in a wail of distress.
Mama!
He cried, the word garbled but unmistakable. Matira slowly fell to one knee, collecting herself from the blast. The attack had knocked the wind from her, scattered her focus. She needed a moment, just a moment, to recover, to understand what just happened. As she did, Voyd and Jaida looked over, seeing their son approach. The sight of him, small, defiant, and possibly powerful, filled them with a mixture of terror and awe. Jay then did something amazing. In the midst of crying, in the middle of his tears and wails, he slowly pushed himself up. His tiny arms trembled with the effort, his small body wobbling dangerously. And then, with incredible determination, he began to waddle forwards. He took his first steps. Jay! Voyd breathed, his voice barely a whisper. The baby hobbled toward them, each step uncertain, each movement a miracle.
Jay!
Jaida whispered, her broken body racked with sobs. Their baby continued forwards, toward them, toward danger, toward the god who had almost killed them all.
Jay,
Matira said, her voice strange, almost soft. She reached out a hand towards the approaching infant.
come, child. It's okay,
she said, words gentle, maternal.
I promise you, everything will...
Before Matira could finish, Jay blasted her again. The attack was short, sharp, a sudden burst of power that struck Matira squarely in the chest. She was thrown back again, her body crashing against the reformattor's heart with enough force to crack the crystal surface. The attack left visible burns on her body, scorch marks that blackened her flesh, wounds that would not easily heal as fast as a cut.
Stop that!
She cried, but Jay didn't listen. He fired again and again. Each blast pushed her back against the heart, forcing her to scramble for purchase on the slick, damaged surface. Her attempts to speak were interrupted by the continuous onslaught. Her words were drowned out by the roar of energy.
Stop it!
She cried one last time, desperation clinging to her voice.
The cry prompted Jay to scream back, unleash a powerful, consistent beam at Matira.
The goddess gasped, her hands moving instinctively, summoning her spear. The weapon materialized in her grip, its blade catching the light of the various energies that filled the chamber. She began spinning it around and around like a propeller blade. The beams impacted against the spinning spear, exploding out into showers of sparks and fragmented energy. Matira held her ground, or what remained of it, pushing back against the infant's assault. But Jay pushed on. He wobbled forwards, his tiny legs carrying him step by step closer to the woman that had hurt his parents. Each movement was unsteady, each step a battle against his own small body. But his determination never wavered. His blast continued, stream after stream of soul-bind energy pouring from his horns. His eyes began to glow a powerful purple shade, the color of his power, the color of his being, as he walked closer and closer, pushing her back more and more. As Jay did this, the others finally broke into the main area. They came rushing through the control room, all of them. They broke through the dark matter barriers with a combined effort, and joined the ANN crew of Joby atop the balcony. They had beaten the Wardens, and they all looked down at the scene, suddenly taken aback by what they were witnessing.
Whoa!
Alice gasped, his voice barely audible over the roar of energy. The scene before them defied comprehension. An infant battling a god. A child overwhelming a being of immense power. Holy shit, Ellie added, her voice hushed with disbelief. She couldn't look away. None of them could. Mabel just stared with wide eyes, while Jay grew closer and closer. His small body moved forward with terrifying determination, his feet shuffling across the damaged floor. Each step brought him nearer to Matira, each moment pushing her further towards defeat. The goddess gritted her teeth, her jaw tight enough to crack teeth. Her hands trembled around her spear, the weapon spinning faster and faster to deflect the unrelenting assault. The baby began to overpower her. She could feel it, the balance of power shifting with terrifying speed. She shouted over the roar, but no one could be heard. No sound beside the roar of the Beyonder's power, the humming of energies, the crying of an infant who refused to stop. Then with one final surge, Jay unleashed all of his might. The power that erupted from him was cataclysmic. It struck Matira's spear with the force of a collapsing star, and the weapon shattered. The pieces of the spear scattered across the chamber like shrapnel from an explosion. Matira's eyes widened in disbelief, her mouth opening in a silent scream as the full force of the soulbind struck her directly. The sound was otherworldly, a shriek of pure agony that echoed through the chamber and beyond. With a mighty crash, Jay blasted her through the reformattor's power source. The crystal heart shattered like glass. Fragments scattered across the chamber in a cascade of glittering debris. Matira's body went soaring until it crumpled, sprawling across the broken floor from the strike. The sudden destruction caused the machine's massive eyes to snap fully open. A loud groan escaped the reformatter, a sound of mechanical pain, of systems failing, of something ancient finally reaching the end of its existence. The sound was felt as much as heard, a vibration that shook the very foundation of the chamber. Jay at last ceased his blast. The pure energy faded from his horns, his eyes returning to their natural form. His small body, pushed far beyond any infant's limits, finally gave out. He fell back to his hands and knees, the limbs too weak to support him any longer. But still, he crawled towards his parents. His movement was slow, a tiny form dragging himself across the debris-strewn floor. His sobs filled the silence that had descended onto the chamber. Sad, heartbroken, sounds that pierced the hearts of all who listened. The group above plummeted downwards, their bodies descending through the battle-torn space. Pearl and Atlas moved with precision, their arms outstretched as they caught the A&N crew that leapt down after. Jay at last reached his parents, his tiny hands reached out, gently grasping at Voyd and Jaida. With all her strength, Jaida got up as far as she could and pulled her son tightly against her chest, still laying on the floor, alive.
Good job, Jay,
Jaida breathed, her voice hoarse from the attack, but filled with unmistakable pride. She and Voyd both struggled to sit up, their bodies aching but functional.
Good job, sweetheart,
she added with silent tears flowing. Voyd chuckled, the sound more of a wheeze than a laugh. His first bad guy takedown. I'm so proud. He laughed again, louder this time, though it quickly dissolved into a cough. Around them, Core and the others were being helped to their feet by the others. Once they stood, everyone rushed for Voyd and Jaida's position. They were damaged, their armor and clothing torn and dirty, but they were alive. They were okay. Core, Sky, and Sika knelt before the wounded couple, their hands gentle as they examined their injuries. Jamie, Nock, Cot, and Jet joined them, adding their own concerned glances and careful aid. They had made it. They had survived. But not just them. A sound emanated before them. A groan. Movement. Matira was rising. Slowly. Painfully. She pushed herself up from the debris-strewn floor. Her form was broken and battered, but functioning. She hobbled forwards, each step a battle against her slowly regenerating body. Everyone's attention snapped to her. Jaida and Voyd instantly moved the shield J, positioning themselves between their son and the approaching goddess. Matira moved past the shattered heart of the reformatter, pausing to eye the destroyed device. She then looked back to the assembled group, taking in their expressions: anger, fear, and defiance. Her gaze then fell to Jay. The child had cowered further into his parents' arms, his small face buried against his mother's chest. Matira stared at him for a long moment, taking in the image of this innocent child wrapped in the protective embrace of those who loved him. No words were shared between them, only looks of hate, disgust, and fear. Matira's expression was unreadable, though something flickered behind her eyes, that were now both visible due to her damaged hair. She looked down at her hands and back up to Jay, stared, just stared. The memories came. She recalled holding Seraphim for the first time in her arms, the weight of him so small, so fragile, the way he looked up at her with those trusting eyes. And then, the flash of memory, Seraphim's death, the emptiness that immediately followed. Her mind raced through all her mistakes, all her failures, until the focus returned to Jay. Just an innocent baby. That's all he was. A baby with a loving mother and father. A child who had done nothing wrong. A child who didn't deserve to die. She looked back down at her hands. They were trembling. So much destruction, so much anger. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Everything she had done, everything she had sacrificed, love for one soul had prevailed over her rage, over her grief, over her authority. And now there was no going back. She slid to her knees, her legs finally giving out beneath her. Her head hung low, hair falling like a curtain. Golden and dark tears stained the floor beneath her. She stuttered, the words catching in her throat. She looked to her hands again, as if seeing them for the first time. What have I become? The question hung in the air unanswered. No one moved, no one spoke. Who am I? She asked, looking to the side. A mother to take another's child for my own gain. She shook her head, a bitter smile cracking across her damaged features. Who am I to decide what you all need? Since when have I ever truly done as such, without my own interests in the way? She laughed then, a hollow sound. Oh, Materoth, she said, looking back down to her hands. Perhaps you and I aren't so different after all. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Voyd slowly stood, his injuries screaming in protest. He huffed and took a step, a shaky, awkward step, and then another, and another. There is no forgiveness for this, Matira continued, her eyes closed. For abandoning you, for Seraphim. What goddess betrays their own? She took a shuddering breath. I have failed you all. I am so sorry. Voyd continued hobbling forwards, his movements slow and deliberate. I understand if you do not wish to forgive me, Matira said, her voice cracking. After all of this, I can't even forgive myself. She looked up, meeting his eyes. All I wanted was the survival of our race, she continued. But I was too blinded by what could be to what already was. The silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Then, against all odds, Voyd moved. In a sudden motion that surprised everyone, he fell to his knees and wrapped his arms around Matira, holding her tight. Matira's eyes widened. Her entire body went rigid in his embrace. What? I don't understand, she managed.
Why? After all I've done to your son, your family, you. Why?
Voyd didn't let go, his arms tightened around her instead.
Because,
he said, tears streaming down his face.
I know deep down, you didn't want to go through with it.
He pulled back slightly, meeting her eyes.
You were scared, sad, angry. You lost control.
His voice broke, but it was optimistic.
But I knew the real you was in there somewhere. Our goddess, the one I was taught so much about.
He held her closer.
You're still one of us, Matira.
For a long moment, Matira didn't move. Then, slowly, almost hesitantly, she raised her arms and hugged him back. Tears, golden and dark, spilled from her eyes, falling onto his shoulder.
Novason,
she said softly, closing her eyes.
After everything, after all that I had done, all the suffering I put you through, you still see good in my soul.
She pulled back slightly, looking into his eyes.
Tell me,
she asked,
what title did Seraphim give you?
Voyd, after a breath, answered honestly, his voice steady despite everything.
Hope. The spark-born of hope.
Matira slowly pulled away from Voyd, looking into his eyes with a shattered stare. She was silent for a long time before speaking up.
Perhaps,
she said, making Voyd tilt his head in confusion.
Perhaps it is no longer me that our people need,
she said, meeting his gaze again.
After all I have done, I now see that perhaps I am not the leader for what our future holds.
She cupped a shaken hand to Voyd's cheek, her touch gentle.
I am flawed, damaged, unstable. But you understand this age, what our people truly need now more than ever.
She nodded slowly.
I believe now, above all else, it is hope.
Voyd stuttered, caught off guard.
My lady, I can't do this alone.
Voyd stalled before speaking honestly.
I'm scared.
Matira smiled, a small, sad smile, but a smile nonetheless.
You won't be alone,
she said, looking back to the others.
You have all you need right there.
Voyd stared at her, stunned.
Matira,
he started. She pressed a finger to his lips.
Our kind needs you. Seraphim gave you his gift for a reason. He's never been wrong about anything before.
Her voice hardened with conviction.
I refuse to believe he was wrong about you.
Voyd hung his head low, overwhelmed.
What about you?
He asked quietly. Matira nodded and stood, her movement slow but steady.
I shall take myself to the banished realm,
she said, surprising everyone,
and leave you all so you may rebuild anew.
The others exchanged confused glances. This was not what they had expected.
I can no longer in good faith call myself your leader after this,
Matira continued.
It's where I belong.
She looked down at her dark matter hand.
Besides, I've been needing to speak with an old face for a while now.
Voyd stood as well, reaching out toward her. You don't have to do this. Materia placed a hand on his shoulder. I have to. After everything that has happened here and in the past, it is the right thing to do. She looked at the others, still wary, still angry, but listening. There is much for me to atone for. The nasty looks from the group didn't faze her. She had expected nothing less. Voyd nodded slowly, accepting her choice. It was not his to make. However, that's when everything changed. The reformator shifted, a sudden, violent motion that made everyone stumble. It began to shake, metal groaning, lights flickering on and off in an erratic pattern. What's happening? Toonie cried, a look of dread washing over everyone's faces. Materia looked at all of them, and then to the shattered heart of the device. Her stomach sank. Jay blasted me through the heart. The power source, she said, the realization dawning on her face. It's destroyed. She looked at everyone, her expression grim. The reformator is going to crash back into the ocean. Fear gripped everyone. No one knew what to say. The weight of their victory suddenly felt very fragile. It was Cece who spoke what was on everyone's minds, her voice flat and resigned. Oh, fuck. The ground lurched beneath their feet, and suddenly survival became the only thing that mattered. Run! Voyd bellowed, his voice cutting through the groan of metal twisting against metal. Everyone move! They broke into a desperate sprint, their footsteps thundering against the tilting floor of the main chamber. The reformator began a rather slow, catastrophic tilt, its ancient system screaming in mechanical agony. Walls creaked and crumbled as the structure writhed in its approaching death. Large gears snapped and shafts warped, spilling steam and embers into the increasingly chaotic air. They fled the bridge, down the stairs, and into the vast halls, legs pumping, sweat spilling, panic rising. Keep moving, hurry! Voyd shouted again, reaching back to grab Jaida's hand, her fingers tying around his, and she in turn clutched Jay close. Above them, Toonie blasted ahead, keeping pace with the fleeing group, while Sky and Jaden darted ahead on their wheels, struggling for balance on the shifting ground. The rest of the group sprinted harder, their lungs burning and their hearts pounding against their ribs. Each step threatened to send them tumbling to the floor, as the reformator tilted steeper and steeper. Materia limped behind the others, her injured body lagging with each step after step. The group had nearly reached the dragons, when the entire chamber heaved violently, sending a cascade of debris raining down from above. With a fierce cry, Materia raised her dark matter arm, batting aside the falling rubble with precision. The debris exploded outwards harmlessly, and those running ahead remained safe beneath the protective arc. Come on, Materia! Voyd shouted, glancing back over his shoulder. We won't leave you behind, he assured. Just keep moving, she gasped, her face contorted in pain and effort. The reformator continued its tilt, the sensation of descent finally registering in their guts. It was slow, agonizingly slow, but it had begun. The floor now sloped at a near impossible angle, and the group scrambled desperately as it began to slip and go sideways. They made it to where they had arrived. All 6 dragons looked agitated by the tilting craft, prompting the group to move as fast as possible. Voyd whistled sharply, the sound cutting through the chaos. The dragon's head snapped toward him, and their nostrils flared. Come, now! He cried. The dragons burst forward, and everyone leapt on. Voyd swung himself on the tater-tot's back, one hand already gripping the creature's reins. Jaida scrambled up beside him. Jamie and those from before quickly got on as well. Everyone clambered to their respective dragons as well, as everything began to shatter and break. Materia struggled to mount Ruby, her arms trembling violently from exhaustion and injury. She grasped the dragon's side, tried to pull herself up, but her muscles simply refused to cooperate. Before she could fall back down, however, Core commanded his dragon around and extended a hand down toward her. Hurry, he said firmly, his orange eyes meeting hers. I've got you. Materia nodded weakly, her pride momentarily eclipsing by necessity. She reached up and took Core's hand. He hoisted her up on the Ruby's back, behind him and his family. She collapsed against the dragon's hide, barely able to hold herself upright. Voyd looked over his shoulder, ensuring everyone had mounted. Upon seeing so, he spoke. "Everyone, on me!" He snapped Heratot's reins, and the great dragon surged forward, its massive wings beating the air. The others followed in perfect formation, the dragons leaping to the sky just as the entirety of the chamber began to shatter and collapse behind them. The group soared upwards with the golden light of the afternoon sky, flying up and away from the great reformator. Voyd signaled, and the dragons banked, turning in the air to face the falling machine. They hovered there, wings beating against the breeze, watching the divine craft behind them begin to fully collapse. The reformator's massive body tilted and buckled, its great ring piece spiraling out of control. With a thunderous crash that echoed across the waves, it struck the ocean at an angle, sending up towering columns of water. Mighty waves erupted outwards, tsunami-level walls of water that threatened to overwhelm anything in their path. Then slowly, the reformator began to sink. With its great eyes, it looked up at the group silhouetted against the golden sky. It squinted at them, being filled with something that might have been anger, or perhaps even a strange form of peace. Then, with a final gurgling breath that bubbled up from the waves, it spoke one last time. It groaned, the words distorted and broken, before sinking once more beneath the waves. Everyone stared in stunned silence at the massive pooling bubbles that rose in its wake. Purple light flashed beneath the water's surface, highlighting the shape of the sinking machine as it disappeared into the depths. Sighs of relief were shared among the group, looks of companionship given between the friends who had survived the impossible. Jaida pressed her head against Voyd's shoulder, finally allowing herself a moment of rest. He leaned back against her, providing what comfort he could. Then, in a weak voice, Matira spoke. "And so with that, the old age ends, and a new begins." Voyd's brow furrowed. He sighed, his voice sounding flat and distant. "The old age already ended long ago, my lady," he said. Matira hung her head low, her dark matter arm pulsing weakly at her side. The words hung in the air between them, regret, loss, and the weight of decisions that could never be undone. "Indeed," she whispered. "If only I hadn't been too blind to recognize it." Voyd and the others didn't respond. They merely turned their dragons away from the sinking grave of the reformator and began to soar. As they flew, Jet opened a shimmering portal, and the group passed through it, leaving the golden skies of the Soleus behind. One by one, Matira awoke the Sparkborns from their forced slumber, and one by one, they took it all in. The destruction that lay scattered before them, the pain that echoed through their newly awakened senses, the lifeless form of Seraphim cradled in Darfian's arms, the weight of what had transpired as they slept. It had settled upon each of them differently, but the heaviness was universal. Matira now stood in the snow, her posture broken not by the chains that bound her, but by the burden of her choices. Nova runes, created from all the Sparkborns, bound her wrists together. The other Sparkborns all looked at her with disappointment etched into every feature. It was disappointment that cut deeper than any blade. Voyd and the rest gathered beside them, their gazes directed upwards at Matira as she looked back at them. Jaida's eyes blazed with particular intensity, as did many of the others. Yet alongside the hatred, there was something else, a terrible, reluctant pity. Voyd, Cogson, Brumble, and the other Sparkborns stared at her with these eyes. They pitied her because they understood why. Amidst this grave gathering, Jay had been reunited with Maple in the carriage. Their happy coos filled the cold air, a stark contrast to the grief that surrounded them. Voyd slowly stepped forward, the snow crunching beneath his boots, the weight of every gaze pressed down upon him as he moved. But he did not falter. He gazed upward at the broken goddess, who looked back at him with an understanding stare, one that communicated volumes without the need for words. Her eyes, once filled with a divine radiance, now held only resignation and a profound sadness.
You don't have to do this to yourself.
Voyd tried to reason.
You can make up for your mistakes in another way. There has to be another path. Another solution that doesn't end with you.
His words caught in his throat, unable to finish a thought. But Matira only shook her head, the movement slow and heavy with defeat.
There is no other way, Novason,
she said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty.
The banished realm is for those who commit unspeakable acts. A goddess trying to kill an infant of their own kind is something I cannot allow myself to push aside.
She looked away, unable to meet his gaze any longer.
Besides,
she continued, her voice dropping to barely more than a whisper,
it would only be a matter of time before I make another terrible mistake.
She looked back to Voyd, her eyes searching his face as if memorizing every feature.
So let my final act as your leader be one that paves for a better future,
she said, bowing her head to him in a gesture of profound respect. The runes around her wrist surged softly as she moved, a mournful melody that seemed to echo through the frozen air.
Voyd Novason, I grant you the title of Lord,
she declared, her voice regaining some of its former resonance.
The new leader of the Sparks. As I said before, they need you now more than ever.
Voyd looked to the side, discomfort evident in every line of his body.
I still don't know if I can take it,
he reasoned, shaking his head with deep unease. The weight of the title felt impossible, but Matira reasoned.
And allow me to lead you in a universe we no longer understand,
she said, shaking her head.
Novason.
Matira's voice was gentle but insistent.
You are raising the child who will bring forth an age of sparks the likes of which we have never seen, in a world that you have called home that's outside of the matter realm itself.
She smiled softly.
If any of us were to lead this new dawn, it would be you. You are the Sparkborn of hope. Everything that has ever happened, everything you have ever done, has led you to this moment. Perhaps it was all.
Matira stalled, as Voyd looked to his hands.
A divine purpose,
he muttered, the words carrying more weight than he had intended. Before he could second-guess himself further, he looked back up to meet Matira's gaze.
Ow.
He stalled, the words catching in his throat like a stone. He tried again, finding the words came easier the second time.
I'll do the best that I can.
He said it with a nod, a small but certain gesture that seemed to settle something within the both of them. Matira nodded back, her expression softening further.
So much like your parents,
she said, words carrying a nostalgic warmth that surprised them both. Before the moment could stretch too long, she eyed everyone else, taking in the gathered crowd of Sparkborns and companions who had witnessed this transfer of power. No one said a word, not even the Sparkborns. Matira took a breath that seemed to cost her greatly.
I'll never expect forgiveness,
she began, her voice carrying raw honesty.
But truly, from the depths of my soul chamber, I am sorry.
She paused, collecting herself before continuing.
For what I've done on this day, for leaving you all, for missing the signs in Materoth, and for all the mistakes I made during both wars.
Matira turned around slowly, her dark matter hair flowing in the wind.
I am sorry, she said again, voice barely audible over the wind, for not being the goddess I should have been.
A bright light began to envelop her, emanating from somewhere deep within her being. It spread outward like dawn, breaking over a darkened horizon, illuminating the snow around her in brilliant shades of gold and white. And then, with a flash that sent shockwaves through the gathered assembly, she vanished from sight, leaving everyone alone in the cold. Voyd reached out instinctively, as if to grab hold of something that was no longer there, but then reverted his hand, looking back to everyone who viewed him with new eyes. Jaida was the first to move. She slowly approached Voyd, and, with relief, gave him a hug. Voyd hugged back, resting his head on her shoulder as the weight of everything threatened to overwhelm him. His shoulders shook slightly, though whether from grief or relief, or something of the two, he couldn't say. After a long moment, he looked up, his gaze sweeping across the assembled Sparkborns, who watched him with gentle eyes. "What is your first command, Lord Novason?" Darfian asked, her voice carrying a formal quality that seemed almost alien coming from her. She still clutched Seraphin's body close, somberly. Voyd shook his head and gently let go of Jaida, though he kept his hand wrapped around hers. Okay, firstly," he began, his voice carrying a note of discomfort. "I'm not rocking with the Lord title. I may be a Sparkborn now, but I'm still me. Please, just call me Voyd," he asked, as he and Jaida reapproached the others. The distance between them closed, but the tension in the air was still palpable. "As for command," Voyd added, tossing an arm up in a shrug that seemed almost casual given the gravity of the situation. "I don't have anything to say. I understand my title, but I'm not gonna rule like a god. That's not who I am." His voice was firm, the conviction in his words absolute. He never sought power, and he wasn't about to start now simply because circumstances had placed an invisible crown upon his head. "If I were to say anything right now, it's that you're all free to do whatever. What would you like to do?" he asked, leaving the Sparkborns to ponder this unexpected freedom. The question hung in the cold air, catching them all off guard. In all their existence, they had always had Matira to guide them, to direct their efforts, to tell them what needed to be done. Now, for the first time, they were being asked to decide for themselves. Sabrath spoke up, breaking the contemplative silence that had settled over the group. He looked at Voyd with his green eyes. "I've been thinking about this since you've told us about what happened," he said, his voice carrying careful consideration. "But I believe our best course of action would be to try and find as many survivors as we can." He looked towards the sky with a hopeful expression. "Call it a hunch, but I believe there are others out there waiting to be found, to be brought home." He looked to his siblings as they nodded in agreement. "Agreed. If they're out there, it only makes sense for us to be the ones to find them," Darfian replied, her siblings echoing her sentiment with affirmations of their own. She looked down at Seraphin's body and winced. "If there was any course of action to take now, it would be this." She paused, her throat working around a difficult swallow. "I know that's what Seraphin would have wanted too," she finished, as all eyes fell back upon Voyd. "Voyd," Sabrath asked, "would you wish to accompany us on this mission?" The question was asked subtly. Although it was an offer, it sounded more so like a suggestion, as though Sabrath already knew Voyd's answer. Voyd thought for only a short few seconds before answering. "I think I'll have to pass," he said honestly. "If needed, I can help from the side, but..." He paused, searching for the right words. "Right now, I have more important matters at hand." Voyd continued, with honesty, as he walked over and rubbed Jay's little head, the child looking up at him with innocent eyes. All I want now, more than anything, is to just be a dad. He said with a soft chuckle, sound carrying a warmth that cut right through the cold. I've spent so much time fighting, going on deadly adventures. I think for just a little bit, I'd like to try and have a normal life with my family. He looked from Jaida to his friends, and then to his siblings and fellow sparks, his gaze communicating a sense of love. Of course, Voyd, Sabraff said, his voice carrying no judgment, only acceptance. This is a task that may take years anyways. We wouldn't wish to strip you away from the life you have built. He extended one of his smaller hands out to Voyd, the gesture one of friendship and goodbye. Thank you. I guess this is farewell? Voyd asked, taking his hand in a firm grip. More so a see you later, Sabraff said, his smile warm despite the circumstances. We'll be sure to check in here and there. As he spoke, all the Sparkborn surrounded Voyd and placed their hands upon his shoulders in a gesture of bonding. You're one of us now, Darfian said, as they all backed up, their hands falling away, but their connection remaining. If you need anything, reach out with your soul. We will be there as soon as we can. Voyd nodded with a smile. Good luck. If you do find anyone, bring them to Earth, he said, which they nodded and waved. As they did so, the Sparkborns disappeared in flashes of light, each one dissolving in the brilliant golden shimmers that scattered like fireflies against the winter sky. The silence that followed their departure was heavy but not uncomfortable. It was the silence of completion, of a chapter ending and another beginning. Well, Sky said, breaking the quiet as her and Toonie held hands. I guess it's over now, she said, sounding rather relieved. Suppose it is, Core added, his voice filled with exhaustion. All eyes fell back upon Voyd with a set of smiles. It was time for a new chapter to begin. They all knew it, and were ready for it. Are we ready to go home? Jaida asked, her voice carrying a note of hope that had been absent for so long. They all looked at each other with relaxed stares. The tension that had become their constant companion finally eased. They had won, not without cost, never without cost. They had won, and now they can finally go home. What about the dragons? Sika asked, gesturing to them all flying around the mountain, their massive forms circling lazily against the sky. Tatertot was among them, all freely enjoying life. Are we just going to leave them? Cogson looked over Sika's shoulder, his gaze tracking the dragons as they soared. Let them roam, he said, his voice carrying a tired but happy tone. They're free to live and spread their wings. He then looked at Sika again with a gentle smile. And so are we, he finished, capping off the moment. Let's go home, Voyd said, prompting Jet to open a portal back to Earth. Together, they approached it. The first was Andy, making a dead sprint for home. The rest of the ANN crew followed close behind. Then went Sky and Toonie, and the rest from Earth, except for Jaida, Voyd, as well as Jay and Maple, who were still sharing the crib. Then went the Sparks, save for Core. He stood at the threshold for a long moment, looking back at the world he was leaving behind. With one final gaze at little Salvuheim, he nodded at Voyd and stepped through the portal. Voyd and Jaida went last, looking from each other and then down to Jay and Maple, who were happily still playing. The future was sitting right before them, as carefree as a butterfly. No words were shared, just tired smiles. Together as one, they crossed through, returning back home and leaving an Odyssey behind them. Forming out of her light, Matira stepped into the banished realm. Her hands remained cuffed in Nova runes. She knew where she was going. She knew what she was doing. She knew where she was. She emerged into a different sector of this realm compared to Los's domain. It was a hellish, infernal landscape dominated by fiery hues and imposing dark structures. Before her stood a cavernous area, a corrupted temple, its stones blackened by the ages of flame and malice. An orange-red sky stretched above her, the color like that of freshly spilled blood, casting everything in an eerie crimson glow. The atmosphere was thick with smoke and glowing embers that floated like malevolent fireflies, each one carrying the lingering heat equivalent to that of a dying star. Rivers and streams of molten fire flowed down the slopes of the temple interior, illuminating the surroundings with a fiery glow that painted shadows across every surface. The liquid flame hissed and bubbled as it carved paths through the ancient stone. Scattered throughout the location were imposing dark crumbling statues of sparks reduced to jagged remnants adorned with spiky, gothic-like designs. Matira assessed these statues with a tired eye before looking at the area more closely. She could see them now, lanky figures with glowing orange eyes within the smoke. Sparks. Or what used to be sparks. Dark matter corrupted sparks, once like many of the others, but mutated into gaunt beasts by the one they followed, banished here as he and her son had been. Then she heard it. The sound of chains and grunting echoed through the cavernous chamber, the metallic clang of the link striking against stone, mixing with the guttural noises of the corrupted beings. Matira looked forwards, as the corrupted sparks with their lanky arms and legs moved like apes, responding to the sound. She looked ahead, seeing a flight of stairs that led up to a shadowy throne. Upon it, a shadowed figure moved, bony and lanky like the other corrupted monsters around her. However, equal in her height, and then began to speak.
Well.
The shadow said, as two glowing red eyes appeared in the dark fog, burning like fire.
Looks like someone finally got what they deserved.
The voice said, as they slowly stood, the sound of chains audible as they moved. Matira could see it now. The skinny frame, long, massive horns from the forehead, sharp claws and flowing robes around their waist.
Tell me, what atrocity did the benevolent Matira commit to end up back at my side?
The figure asked, making Matira look down in shame. The shame burned hotter than the molten rivers that surrounded them.
Oh, I can feel it through the parts of my soul that reside in you. I can feel the pain.
The figure said,
Our son, slain by your hand. A child of purpose. Survivors of an attack by the Red Death. Oh, why, you and I are so much more alike than you want to admit, my dear.
The figure said as Matira winced. His words struck like physical blows, each one digging deeper into a wound that would never heal. Indeed we are, Matira said before looking back at the figure. We are both failures, my love, Matira said as the figure leaned out of the darkness.
We? No. It is you, and only you, my love.
Matira gazed at the malnourished being before her. Dark skin, a skeletal body, a soul chamber barely alight, sunken eyes, red horns, and glowing rune tattoos across his body. He smirked, baring sharp teeth. Materoth.
You have always been in the wrong. If you had just joined me in the dark, perhaps none of this would have happened.
Materoth suggested, before chuckling as Matera looked down in shame.
Silent as ever,
Baterov said, as Matera sat, accepting her place among him and the others.
Well, since you're staying, perhaps it's time we catch up.
Materov suggested with a sinister tongue, as Matera eyed him with a defeated stare.
I would like to know more about this soulbind. This child.
Materov asked, before laughing at Matera's scowl. 4 months had passed since Jay was born. 4 months since Matera made her betrayal. 4 months since a brand new day began for everyone. A spring morning arose over Aurora. The snow was melting, retreating in glistening patches from the rooftops and sidewalks alike. The birds were returning, their songs filling the air with melody that had been absent through the long winter months. A gentle warmth filled the space between buildings. Cars drove by, their tires hissing softly against the damp pavement. Pedestrians walked about, some briskly making their way to work, others strolling leisurely to enjoy the freshness of the new season. On the streets and sidewalks of Aurora, children, who were bright-eyed and chattering excitedly, were making their way to school. Upon one of these many sidewalks walked Core, Sika, and Joby, who was holding on to both her parents' hands between them, being swung forward and back with little giggles that bubbled up from her chest. Core held a calm expression as he no longer wore his Viking-like gear. Instead, he was donned in a nice warm brown vest with a white buttoned undershirt. He wore dark pants and large shoes, while he had glasses over his eyes, the sides having been taped to his skin. There was something peaceful in his appearance now. Sika wore a red turtleneck top that was matched by a cream-white skirt. Upon it were tons of music notes in the same red shade. She even wore red heels that clacked on the pavement with each step. Despite all that happened, despite one of her horns being broken, now a permanent reminder of the battle they had faced, she held a smile. The light was back in her eyes, burning with renewed hope and determination. Joby was wearing purple overalls with a yellow shirt and shiny yellow shoes. Upon her back, she wore a pink book bag, bulging slightly from the supplies and snacks packed within.
You ready for your first day of school, Sweet Pea?
Core asked, his voice warm and encouraging as Joby looked up to him with eyes full of wonder. "Are you?" she asked back, a cheeky grin spreading across her face. This made Core chuckle and nod. "What about you, Mama? Are you ready?" Joby asked, turning her bright gaze towards Sika, making her giggle in return. "Oh, of course, my little one," she said, seeing the large school ahead, its doors open, its windows gleaming in the morning light. ACC, it said. Aurora Community College. "So, Uncle Voyd said all grades go to this place? From kindergarten all the way up till college?" Joby asked, making Core nod thoughtfully.
Yep, that's what he and the interviewer told us. I'm looking forward to teaching at a college-level degree,
Core said as a bunch of kids and teens walked past them, making their way to class. Some rushing, some lagging behind, all part of the morning routine. "I'm looking forward to teaching again in general. Hopefully today will be easy though, because Voyd's wedding is tonight," Sika mentioned as they stopped before the stairway that led into the building, the steps seeming to stretch up before them like a threshold to a new chapter.
After everything we've been through, I think we'll manage,
Core said as they eyed the stairs, thinking back to the last time they entered a school. It struck them for a moment, a brief shadow crossing their face as memory surfaced. But before it could settle, Joby shook their hands. "Hey, it's gonna be a good day. Let's have some fun," she said, snapping Core and Sika back to the present. A warm smile spread across their faces. Lotus was gone. They had told themselves this countless times, repeating it like a mantra, like a promise. Today would be different. Today would be better.
You're right. Let's get a move on then. Don't want to be late on day one,
Core said, to which his girls nodded in agreement. They ascended the stairs, but halted as a gurgle came from Joey's backpack, a mysterious sound in the quiet morning air. What was that? Sika asked, her eyebrows rising slightly with curiosity. Joey perked up, her expression brightening even further. Oh, that was just my stomach. Those pancakes really left me craving more, she said, making her parents eye each other curiously, then shrug in unison. Together, they walked on. As they did, Gluppy poked his head out of Joey's backpack for only a second, his wide eyes taking in the morning sun. Then, as quickly as he appeared, he quickly got back inside, hiding away once more. Together, the little family walked towards the doors of ACC, toward the future, toward a day that promised hope and healing, and the start of a new beginning. As they entered, the morning sun cast warm beams through the tall windows of the A&M building, illuminating the bustling work area where business continued as per usual. Laughter and conversation filled the air, creating a pleasant atmosphere. Inside, the A&M crew sat around a table, simply enjoying the morning before the long day ahead of them would begin. They were back to their usual attires, back to normalcy. None of them could complain, especially Andy, who sat with 2 jars of pickles before them, looking indecisive. Honey mustard or plain? Andy asked, holding up 2 pickles from each jar, unsure of which one to snack on. Francine wrinkled her nose. Both are disgusting, she said with disgust, making Andy shrug. Both it is then, Andy chirped, crunching the 2 of them down at once with obvious enjoyment. The sour crunch echoed through the room as they smiled contentedly. Winona and Cece chuckled, shaking their heads at the sight. Francine turned away, gagging. Ugh, that's so gross. She pressed a hand to her throat, tilting her head dramatically. So gross. She added with a drama-induced spin, playfully fainting into Winona's arms. Why does everyone judge my comfort food? Andy asked, looking at Francine with a confused expression. Because raw pickles are grossy, a voice emerged from the table. Everyone looked, gazing at Mallory, who had shapeshifted into a mug. Andy rolled their eyes, wiping the pickle juice from their fingers. Girl, whatever. You guys ready for Voyd's wedding tonight? The question immediately captured everyone's attention. Francine's eyes lit up, and Cece nodded eagerly. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a good time, Winona said, her voice tinged with her usual anticipation. Francine nodded in agreement, her red hair swaying slightly with the movement as she got back upright. A spark wedding? Cece questioned, her brow furrowing as she took a sip of coffee out of Mallory. Wonder how that'll go, she pondered, as Mallory giggled. Hey, that ticklies, he gleefully exclaimed. Jaida is apparently getting help from Jaida and Evelyn to make it perfect, Winona added. Apparently Atlas and Booster are also running errands with Brumble in the Matter Realm to grab the essentials. Andy looked at her with a puzzled expression. The essentials? Andy asked, confusion flickering across her features. Before anyone could respond, a white hand descended upon Andy's shoulder from behind. The group jumped, turning to find Voyd standing there. Elaine was also at his side. Voyd wore his standard blue coat and casual darker clothes. His warm eyes scanned the group with a friendly glint. Important flowers and ceremonial items we Spark use for these occasions, Voyd explained, his voice carrying the familiar warmth his colleagues had come to appreciate. No different than getting something like a priest for a human wedding, he added with a wink and point at Winona. Voyd! What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be with Jaida? Winona asked in surprise. Voyd shrugged, a sheepish grin crossing his features. I had to drop off my photos for the week. so I decided to quickly come over and say hi to my favorite coworkers. Elaine nudged him with her elbow, rolling her eyes playfully. He's referring to me, she cackled, before Voyd gently pushed her off. Yeah, whatever you say, NATO girl. Voyd waved her off with a playful smirk, tugging at his lips. Elaine laughed, punching his arm lightly. Hey, you invite me to your wedding? That sounds like you like me well enough. The group chuckled at their banter. Well, it's nice for you to drop in, Cece said, cradling her coffee closer. How's Jay doing? Voyd's expression softened at the question. Good. He's walking more, babbling. He's really clingy with Maple, though. Vice versa with him. But he's good. Andy's face split into a knowing grin. That's good to hear. Guess Jay has himself a girlfriend by the sounds of it. Voyd rubbed the back of his head awkwardly, rolling his eyes. Yeah, I guess so. Andy reached into the pickle jar, extending a pickle chip towards Voyd. You want one, Sparkborn? Voyd eyed the pickle suspiciously, but this time, he sighed, accepting the inevitable. Fine, I'll try it. The group watched in stunned silence as Voyd raised the pickle to his lips and took a hesitant bite. His face contorted in disgust, his pupils shrinking as the sour flavor exploded across his tongue. But then, he paused. He slowly chewed some more, chewing on and on, until the disgust faded from his eyes. They then dilated as he swallowed. He looked down at the pickle, then at Andy, who nodded encouragingly. It's good, right? He pat Andy's hat-covered head approvingly. He stalled, searching for the right words. You can bring more of those to the wedding if you want. Andy's smirk widened into a grin of triumph. Don't knock it till you've tried it, they cried out towards the others. The ladies rolled their eyes at the exchange. However, the peaceful moment was short-lived. Voyd Novason! Everyone turned towards the doorway as a figure burst into the room. Mason Sato levitated there. Uh-oh, Cece whispered. The large, mustached man levitated forwards, his presence commanding the room. Elaine instantly hid behind Voyd, her small frame trembling slightly. Voyd stood his ground, positioning himself protectively. Oh boy, Voyd muttered under his breath, bracing himself. Yes, Mr. Sato? Mason approached Voyd, getting directly in his face. For a tense moment, nobody breathed. Then suddenly, his demeanor softened entirely, and he spoke in a normal, almost gentle tone. Sorry. Just wanted to thank you for getting those photos in today. Mason patted Voyd's shoulder approvingly. Also, congrats on the wedding, son. Voyd blinked, caught off guard by the sudden change. Oh, thanks, sir. Mason nodded, his mustache bobbing with the movement. Of course. He turned his attention to the A&N crew, his gaze sweeping across them. You four, we have a new employee joining us today, and she requested to be shown around by you specifically. She's coming in to be our part-time gardener for the spring and summer. Winona exchanged confused glances with Francine, Andy, and Cece. Wait, are you referring to... The question was answered as a figure appeared in the doorway. Everyone's attention turned, their eyes widening at the vision before them. Pearl stood gracefully in the entrance, dressed in a beautiful white dress, elegant heels clicking softly against the floor. Her delicate flower crown rested gently on her head as always. Without a word, she raised a hand in a soft wave, a warm smile gracing her lips. Pearl. Voyd felt a sense of pure joy filling his voice, as everyone looked to the Sparkette with a sense of glee. The morning sun continued to cast a warm glow through the entire city. This light beamed in through Sarvi Suites, illuminating the cozy interior of the small bakery. At a table near the window, two figures sat across from one another, their faces lit up with laughter. Between them sat an open box of donuts. Tooney shifted nervously in his seat, his fingers drumming against the table's surface. He wore casual attire, a brown t-shirt, dark cargo shorts, and a pair of well-worn black sneakers. Across from them, Sky sat with her legs crossed beneath the table. She had on a light green turtleneck, contrasting beautifully with black leggings, while white sneakers bounced slightly as she kicked her feet. "So," Sky began, a mischievous grin spreading across her features as she gestured at the box of donuts. "This was the idea for your friendly date, huh? Taking a fit and healthy girl like me to a high-calorie place like this?" Toonie's face flushed with a deep shade of green, his hands rising to rub the back of his head. Well, I didn't think," he stuttered, the words catching in his throat like a knot. Sky's laughter rang out like wind chimes, filling the space between them with warmth. "I'm just playing, Toon-Toons. This stuff tastes and feels amazing after years of eating burnt meat and berries." She shoved 3 donuts into her mouth simultaneously, chewing them with enthusiasm. Toonie couldn't help but laugh along, the tension in his shoulders melting away. "Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Sarvy's has the best treats in the whole world," he exclaimed, resting his hand palm down on the table, his fingers splaying out comfortably. The two sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the sounds of the bakery filling the space. The gentle hum of the ovens, the soft murmur of other customers, the occasional ding of the bell above the door as someone came or went. "On that note," Toonie said, turning his body slightly to face her more directly, "now that you've been here for a few months, how have you been liking it?" Sky's eyes met his. She smiled, taking a mouthful. You should rephrase that to how I've been loving it." She threw her hands up in the air, dramatically, her voice rising with excitement. "Everyone's been so cool. There's sounds besides birds chirping and beasts howling. I'm wearing normal goddamn clothes, and of course..." She paused, her hands dropping back down the rest gently atop Toonie's on the table. Her voice softened considerably, gaining a flirtatious glint. "This world is home to the best boyfriend in the whole universe." She leaned forward, resting her head against Toonie's, her eyes locked onto his with a warm stare. Toonie's tail began to wag furiously beneath the table, thumbing against the seat in rapid succession. He mirrored her motion, leaning in until their foreheads touched. "Glad you think as such. To be honest, I feel like I've been a bit awkward at this whole thing, especially with your brother being my best friend and all." Sky giggled to this, pulling her head back. "Hey, it's our mission to make him feel awkward, you know?" She teased, nudging him gently with her elbow. Toonie scoffed, a sound that was caught between a laugh and a sigh. "He caught us making out in his closet. He looked like he wanted to kill me," he said with an embarrassed look to the side. "Oh, he'll get over it," Sky said, waving a hand dismissively before leaning in closer. "He is the spark born of hope now. I'm pretty sure it's in his contract that he has to be optimistic about everything now. So that includes our very visible lovey-dovey crap." Toonie burst out laughing. "Wow, okay," he cackled to her bold assumption. Sky giggled in response before calming down. "Look, jokes aside, Toonifer," she began, locking eyes with him again. "Just on a real note, I honestly couldn't be happier. You, my brothers, my nephew, my friends, everything." She paused, her expression softening into something truly vulnerable. "As I said before, I'll say it again. Thank you for saving me." Toonie sighed happily, reaching up to rub his forehead against hers in a tender gesture. "Of course. Toonie paused before saying it out loud. "I love you, Sky," he said bashfully, making Sky blush and look away. "I love you too, Toonie." The moment stretched between them, warm and perfect, a little bubble of intimacy that felt entirely separated from the rest of the world. That was until a voice shattered the illusion. "Oh my god, you two are just as corny as Voyd and Jaida." They turned, faces flushing with embarrassment, to see 3 figures at a table next to them. Ellie and Coco sat side by side. Ellie wore a green shirt, blue jeans, and untied shoes. Beside her, Coco had opted for a dark blue shirt and a brown skirt, as well as dark sneakers. Beside them, in a baby seat that had seen better days, sat Maple, gnawing enthusiastically on an ice cream cone that had been drizzled with syrup. The sticky treat was half melted, dripping down Maple's chin, and onto a small bib wrapped around her neck. Coco shook her head at Ellie's remark. Meanwhile, Toonie and Sky sat frozen. And on their wedding day, no less. Crazy. Sky and Toonie exchanged a bashful look, both turning their faces away in unison, the heat rising to their cheeks. As the sun began its descent towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and rose, the ceremony was about to commence in the woods far behind both Aurora and the home of Voyd and Jaida. They had discovered a clearing, a breathtaking expanse where wildflowers had begun to bloom and towering pines rose high towards the heavens. Massive stones and boulders littered the tree line, while a crystal-clear river stream rushed wonderfully off to the side, its gentle current providing a soothing backdrop to the proceedings. The central aisle had been constructed of sturdy wooden planks that led inevitably towards a beautifully adorned floral arch. This structure had been crafted from plants found only in the Matter Realm. The arch featured a stunning mixture of blue and orange flowers that glowed gently with inner energy. Flanking the aisle were only 2 sets of wooden benches, set up for the few that would be gathering for the occasion. Numerous glass jars containing spark essence had been strewn across the trees, casting warm, flickering glows that danced like fireflies in the gathering dusk. Additional floral arrangements had been placed upon the benches themselves, while scattered fallen petals created a natural carpet along the aisle. Everyone had gathered now, taking their places with excitement. Winona, Francine, Cece, Andy, Elaine, as well as Meowcree all sat upon a bench closest to the altar. Beside Meowcree sat both Toby and Polaris, the 3 of them sitting together like an inseparable trio. The group wore fancy outfits that matched their color aesthetics. Winona had chosen a pink and white dress that fluttered gently in the breeze, while Francine looked elegant in a flowing blue gown. Cece had opted for a brown floral dress that complemented the natural surroundings. Andy wore a dark green suit-like top that ended in a skirt. Elaine was just wearing a white tank top, shorts, and sandals. Meowcree had simply morphed a small bow tie that hung beneath his fat little chin. Ellie, Coco, Maple, as well as Toonie and Sky sat upon the bench opposite to them. Nearby, watching from within a tree, was Pofnu, her eyes set comfortably upon the scene. Toonie wore a fancy brown suit, as did Ellie, though hers was a rich emerald color instead. Coco, in contrast, had chosen a fancy yellow dress that seemed to capture the last rays of sunlight. Maple sat beside her, wearing a little dress of red, though she nibbled at the fabric, clearly not fond of the garment. Sky, however, wore a truly unique creation. Her dress was a green and white masterpiece, strewn together with silk and plant vines in a display of natural artistry. Flowers actually bloomed off it in real time, while a delicate flower crown sat upon her head, completing her ethereal appearance. She adjusted it slightly, not really a fan of how prickly it was. But she wasn't the only one adorned in such fashion. All the Sparks wore a similar aesthetic. All the Sparkettes wore dresses bearing the same nature-inspired vibe, each donning flower crowns upon their heads, while the male Sparks wore fancy suits of a similar vein. However, Atlas, Evelyn, Jaden, and Booster stood sentinel along the aisle, their Nova blades drawn and pressed to the floor, standing guard with solemn duty. At the altar, Voyd stood with Core, Jamie, as well as Pearl. They're helping him look his best for this momentous occasion. Behind them, waiting to give the vows in the standard Spark way, stood Brumble. He too wore a suit with flowers, though it was stretching at the seams. Voyd's suit was a multi-layered ensemble with a rich, deep blue as its primary color, adorned with ornate gold detailings and black design patterns that traced elegant paths across the fabric. Delicate blue flowers adorned him, like tiny sapphire blossoms brought to life, while his flower crown shone beautifully with a blue shine that pulsed with inner light. Of course, his orange guitar pick necklace rested front and center.
How's it feel?
Core asked, patting Voyd's shoulders with genuine affection. Voyd smiled, a warmth spreading across his features. Wonderful, he assured with gratitude. As Pearl tightened a bow upon Voyd's neck, Jamie wrapped Voyd in a gentle embrace. Voyd hugged back, their heads resting on each other's shoulders in a moment of tender connection. Oh, love, I'm so happy for you both. You've grown so much since we met, Jamie said as they pulled back, her eyes glistening with unshed tears of joy. Thanks, Mom, for everything, Voyd said, prompting Jamie to smile broadly and give him an Eskimo kiss with her nose. Although Voyd didn't have a nose himself, he moved his head side from side to mimic the motion. Then the voice of Cogson arose from somewhere nearby, carrying across the clearing.
We hope the suit works well as it looks. Well, it's the only one we could find,
he said, drawing everyone's attention as he approached with a new enhancement. Instead of new legs, Cogson had acquired a cybernetic underhalf that acted as a unicycle, a motorized wheel bearing the same design as Sky's and Jaden's wheels. It was attached to a cybernetic part that made up the entire lower half. Although bizarre in appearance, Cogson moved fluidly, faster than before. Voyd embraced him in a heartfelt hug. It's great, Grandpa. Thank you, Voyd said with a smirk, his gratitude evident. How's the upgrade been? Core Nox spent a whole month on it, Voyd asked. Core spoke up from nearby.
Month and a half,
he corrected. Cogson chuckled.
Why, feeling fantastic. Much prefer this over my old legs. I can actually maintain speed now,
he said, reaching up to rub Voyd's head. That's good, Voyd added, before looking up towards the aisle, his gaze distant as nervous sweat spilled down his brow.
Nervous?
Core asked, having noticed a subtle change in Voyd's demeanor. As Voyd nodded, his head slowly, he expressed what weighed on his soul. Yeah, it's funny. I've faced so many crazy things and have come out on top each time with barely a breath of life. And yet, I'm nervous to see the best thing that ever happened in my life walk down an aisle. Core rested a hand on his shoulder.
You love her that much, huh?
He asked with a knowing smile. Voyd smiled back, his eyes reflecting the glow of the spark essence jars overhead. You have no idea, man, Voyd replied, prompting Core to rub his shoulder consolingly.
You got this,
Core assured him, leaving Voyd to breathe slowly, to compose himself for the moment that approached. That was until it began. A horn suddenly blew from afar, halting everyone in their tracks, causing the conversations to cease and heads to turn down the aisle with collective anticipation. Bursting first from the tree line came Joby, leaping and bouncing in a yellow dress, carrying Gluppy. Flower girl, I'm the flower girl, she announced, bounding and jumping down the aisle, squeezing Gluppy with excitement. As she did, the matter creature coughed and wheezed out petals from its mouth, creating a scene that was both cute and disgusting. Flower girl, here I come, she cried before finishing her traverse down the aisle and leaping to stand beside Core. Then they appeared. Emerging first came Sika, Nock, and Kot, with Jet beside him. Nock and Kot were dressed in fancy suits, while Sika matched with the other Sparkettes in an elegant floral dress. Jet simply wore a fancy top hat. Sika and Kot took position to the left of the aisle, while Nock and Jet were on the right. Then, appearing from the foliage, with Jay held in her arms instead of a traditional bouquet of flowers, was Jaida. She was a sight to behold, a vision that stole the breath from everyone present. Her dress was a dramatic cascade of flowing fabric that transitioned in color from soft white at the top to a vibrant warm orange at the bottom, creating a sunset-like garment that seemed to capture the very essence of twilight. The lower portion of the dress, as well as the shoulders, were adorned with white and orange flowers to match the aesthetic, a perfect complement to Voyd's outfit. Her hair was tied back into an elegant bun, while her guitar pick necklace shone beautifully in the light, a symbol of her and Voyd's connection. Jay was nestled in a white swaddle, gazing at everyone with a smile that melted hearts. Voyd and Jaida's breath caught simultaneously as they took in the sight of one another. Slowly, she and the others made their way forward, as everyone gazed upon them with a swirl of emotions. Winona, Francine, Cece, and Coco held tears in their eyes, barely contained behind their lashes, while the rest held looks of pure anticipation. Gently, Jaida stood up upon the altar, while Nock, Kat, and Jet took their places beside Jamie, while Sika went beside Core, Pearl, and Joby. Both Jaida and Voyd stared at one another, eyes trying to stay composed despite the overwhelming emotion of the moment. Gently, Voyd lifted Jaida's blusher this year fully, to take in her every feature. She, as always, was the most gorgeous sight he had ever seen. An angel. His angel. "Hey," Voyd whispered shakily, his voice barely carrying beyond the space between them. "Hey," Jaida replied, her voice equally trembling with emotion as she extended Jay out, to which they both held him instead of their hands, their fingers intertwining around their son rather than each other. Once all was situated, Brumble began to speak. "Ah, welcome, friends. Welcome to today's very special occasion," Brumble began, his eyes scanning the crowd with genuine affection. "Today, on this special day, we witness the joining of souls, a bond forged in love. Today, we wed Voyd Novason and Jaida Woods." A murmur of excited whispers rippled through the gathering. Brumble nodded approvingly, his smile deepening as he raised his voice just enough to capture the full attention of everyone present. "Voyd Novason, the astral knight, the sparkborn of hope," Brumble announced. "May you speak from the depths of your soul. Speak to the one you have chosen to be your forevermore." Voyd took a shaky breath, his chest rising and falling as he struggled to compose himself. Everyone watched in silence, their heartbeats seeming to pause in anticipation to his words. He locked his gaze with Jaida, those deep blue eyes locking onto hers as she was the only anchor keeping him grounded in this moment. "Jaida, as you know, before you," Voyd began, his voice wavering ever so slightly, "I thought everything was done for me. I thought I had lost everything, everyone I ever cared for. I was losing myself, fighting day and night without rest." He paused as the memories threatened to overwhelm him, but the warmth in Jaida's eyes grounded him. She stood there, patient and loving. "But then, I came to this world," Voyd continued, with a faint smile creeping across his face. "A one in a near impossibility. And once here, I found you," he said as his horns began to hum. "You became my first friend since Salvuheim," Voyd said, his voice growing steadier with each word. "And then you became something more. Through everything, you never stopped being there, never stopped to push me away. Even through the rough patches, you were there for me, every step of the way." Jaida's composure wavered, tears beginning to form at the corners of her eyes. She blinked rapidly, trying to hold them back, but the emotion was already too powerful to contain. "After all we've been through, the two things I want more than ever is to just be your sparkmate, and to be the best father I can be for our son." He glanced downward briefly, his eyes finding Jay, who had a wide grin on his face. "I love you and him more than anything," Voyd whispered. "Which is why today, I want to make us whole." He let a tear fall freely now, not caring to wipe it away. "I love you, Jaida Woods," Voyd finished, his voice barely above a whisper, but carrying across the clearing with absolute certainty. You are my angel. The crowd sat in stunned silence, their hearts swelling with raw emotion that had just been laid before them. Even the birds on the trees seemed to pause their songs, as if paying respect to this moment. Brumble nodded slowly, his own eyes slightly misty as he turned his attention to Jaida. Jaida Woods, the cosmic angel, mother of Jay, soon to be Nova Woods, Brumble announced, his voice light as ever. May you speak from the depths of your soul. Speak to the one you have chosen to be your forevermore. Jaida took a deep breath as she gathered her thoughts, the weight of all that had led her to this moment pressing upon her chest. But when she looked up in the Void's eyes, she found her courage. Voyd, I was a mess before you, Jaida admitted, her voice trembling slightly. I was a phantom running around and risking my life out of desperation. I was reckless and stupid. She paused as a bittersweet smile crossed her face, while she looked back upon who she used to be. Until you came into my life. Your title serves you well, because you gave me hope again after so long. A tear escaped down her cheek, and she reached up to wipe it away gently. You being there for me, allowing me to help you, in turn allowing me to find myself with you has been... Jaida paused, searching for the right words. The greatest experience of my life. She took a shaky breath, composing herself before continuing. You are the kindest, bravest soul to have ever embraced me, Jaida said, her voice filled with absolute conviction. You're always there, looking out for me, even if it's in the smallest of things. You are the most wonderful person I have ever known. She glanced down briefly at Jay, reached up for her.
Mama.
He said, breaking Jaida more. I hope our son turns out like you, Voyd, Jaida said, looking back up to her love with tears streaming freely now. Because someone the likes of you, the world needs more of it. Voyd's smile widened, his own tears flowing freely now as he absorbed every word she spoke. I love you more than you could possibly imagine. You're the light in my life. My knight in shining armor. The silence that followed was deafening in its beauty. Brumble then cleared his throat softly, his own composure slightly shaken by the emotional power of the vows. Core, the rings, please, Brumble asked, turning to look at the bulky Spark, who had been waiting patiently off to the side. Core nodded, a gentle smile on his face as he approached the couple. He held out his hands, presenting the two rings that glowed with their respective colors. One orange, one blue. Voyd and Jaida each reached out and took a ring, their fingers trembling slightly with anticipation. Jaida slipped the orange ring on the Voyd's finger, and then Voyd did the same with the blue one on the Jaida's. Core nodded at them both, his smile deepening as he stepped back to rejoin the others. They admired their rings for a moment, then with one synchronized motion, they looked back up to each other, their eyes meeting with a love that needed no words. Brumble chuckled softly, adjusting his outfit as he prepared to speak the final words of the ceremony. All right, my friends. Time for the final part, Brumble said. But before he could continue, a sudden commotion interrupted the moment. Oh, helly Noe! This is Mercury's time to shiny! The Cosmic Cat cried. Everyone turned in surprise as Mercury bounced off his seat, his small form moving with surprising speed and agility. A look of panic, and perhaps excitement, crossed his face as he rushed towards the front of the gathering. Before Brumble could react or say anything, Mercury leapt into the air, his small body soaring through it. With a clumsy but somehow successful landing, He landed squarely on Brumble's shoulder, perching there like a parrot.
Voyd Novason, my friendy, do you take your beautiful orange-haired girlie as your one and only true lovey for all eternity?
Meowcrete bellowed with his emotional pride. A wave of laughter rippled through the crowd at this unexpected interruption. Voyd himself burst out laughing, a deep blue blush spreading across his cheeks.
I do,
Voyd said, nodding firmly as he fought to contain his laughter. Meowcrete nodded vigorously, then turned, his attention upon Jaida.
And do you, pretty star lady, take the blue Orby to be your one and only hunky husbandy for all eternity?
Meowcrete cried, his voice reaching a crescendo that seemed to shake the leaves on the trees. Jaida laughed so hard that more tears streamed down her cheeks. She had to catch her breath.
I do,
she finally managed to say, her voice shaking with laughter and emotion. Meowcrete nodded with satisfaction, his fat belly puffing with pride.
Then by the power invested in the silly meow meows, I pronounce it you husbandy and wifey, for really this time. You may kiss the bridie.
Meowcrete declared, throwing his tiny paws up into the air with a dramatic flourish. The crowd erupted into laughter and cheers, the tension of the ceremony breaking the pure joy and celebration. Meowcrete didn't need to say it twice. Leaning in, Voyd and Jaida brought their lips together in a kiss that seemed to suspend time itself. As their mouths met, Voyd's horns began to glow with an intense blue light, the luminescence spreading outward like ethereal flames. At the same time, Jaida's hair flared with a powerful orange glow, the strands seeming to come alive with their own inner fire. The two lights intertwined, blue and orange, blending together to create a brilliant hue that bathed the entire clearing in its warm glow. An eruption of claps and cheers arose from the gathered crowd. Friends jumped to their feet, their voices combining into a chorus of celebration that echoed through the forest. Bumble waited until the noise had subsided slightly, before raising his hands for attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Nova Woods,
he announced, his voice carrying across the joyous chaos. After their kiss, Voyd and Jaida embraced, their arms wrapping around each other into a tight hold that said everything words could not express. Between them, Jay laughed happily, his small form bouncing with uncontainable joy. The last ray of golden sunshine passed over everyone, casting long shadows that danced across the clearing as the afternoon began to slowly transition into evening. It was as if the sun itself was celebrating in this union, giving them one final perfect moment of light before night fell. One by one, everyone approached the new couple, offering their hugs and their well wishes. Soon after, the celebration continued well into the night, with laughter and music filling the air as the forest clearing transformed into a makeshift party space. A massive fire was soon lit, and before anyone knew it, another celebratory dance commenced. The night was happy, cheerful, and full of love. A new chapter had begun for them all, a new chapter full of hope. Everyone could feel it in the moment, radiating outwards like the warmth of a fire that burned with a new age, not just for Voyd and Jaida, but for all of them. As the celebration continued within the private sector of the forest, something else was stirring. Beyond the reach of the firelight and the laughter, a lone tree stood a few miles away from the clearing, its gnarled branches reaching for the sky, clawing at the darkness as if trying to hold on to the last remnants of daylight. Unusually, leaves of both purple and red bloomed from it, intertwining in an impossible form of nature. At its base, a cascade of flowers had bloomed from the earth, covering the roots in a carpet of purple and red. These were not ordinary flowers. These were alien in nature, their petals shimmering with a faint luminescence that was anything but natural. They were crystallized. Beneath this strange growth, buried in the soil that had been undisturbed for years, there sat a wooden chest. 2 locks kept the chest sealed, one on each side. These locks emanated a purple glow, a faint but unmistakable light that pulsed outwards like a heartbeat, giving life to the strange plants that had grown up around it. Inside the chest, sat a lone, purple cube. The cube was unmoving, unsuspicious, its surfaces smooth and featureless. However, within it, something was stirring. The faintest little glow bloomed within its core, a tiny speck of light so small that it was no bigger than a flower seed. A tiny red dot, a speck of light deep inside the purple cube, hovering motionless. Until it wasn't. With one quick motion, the light inside slammed against the interior of the cube. And with impossible speed, it zipped to the other side, causing the cube to ever so faintly move. A tiny shift that would have gone unnoticed by any but the most observant of souls. And then it went docile again, levitating faintly and pulsing, sitting there in the darkness of the chest, beneath a tree, oblivious to all those who danced the night away.
Well, if it isn't you again, my listener from beyond the veil, congrats once again. You've made it through yet another chapter of this story. This story that means the world to me. I don't have much to say besides that what comes forth after this chapter is something I've come to dread. In the first universe, we lost 2 lives. The child of syrup and the machine. In the second, I didn't have the heart to put them through it again. In the end, both worlds were detached from my hands. But this third one, this final one, although the tides of all fates are shifted, it is necessary. But as you now know, tragedies and the darkest of days could secretly be blessings in disguise. All of this is in order to create the perfect world. A world for them. I must get this right, no matter what. I hate to let you go so shortly. I enjoy our chats, I really do. But I gotta get back to work. We are now at the halfway mark. And playing it safe is no longer an option. It's time to reforge the past one last time. Meanwhile, be well. Remember, the journey will always be waiting for you. Farewell, my friend.
Jaida, we are not keeping these cows. But Voyd, they just showed up. Look at them. They're so cute. Jaida, they are squared. They look photoshopped, and I'm kind of nervous of their AI. Voyd, how could you say such a thing? Look at their cute little faces. They're so cute. Can we keep them, please? Please, they're so cute in Minecraft. Jaida, I swear to God, we're not keeping these. We have Jay already. Wait, is that a bison? Is that a bison? I don't think it's a bison. Jaida, that's a bison. That is a bison. Oh, Jaida!